But it's ready whenever you are, Commissioner. It's all right.
Welcome everyone. The Iron County Commission meeting of the 23rd of September 2019 is in session. At this time, Shane Manueli will lead us in the pledge, and after which Dallin Staley will offer our opening prayer.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Our dear Father in heaven, we're thankful to be gathered here today and thankful for the opportunity we all have to live and work in Iron County and its communities, and ask you to please bless us today with thy spirit, and bless those that we've elected to make decisions on behalf of the citizens of Iron County, that they will be blessed with thy spirit and be able to make the decisions that will continue to improve our lives and our communities here. And this we pray in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen. Thank you both very much. We appreciate it. If you show up, the first time, we put you right to work. We appreciate it. Okay, at this time, have the minutes of August 26, 2019 meeting. I would entertain a motion if there's no discussion.
I would approve, I would move to approve the minutes of August 26, 2019 as they are.
Second.
Been moved and seconded that we approve the Iron County Commission minutes of August 26, 2019. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, motion carries. Thank you.
One present.
Yeah, there's a few on this one.
And
Thank you.
thank you, John. Okay, at this time we'll have our departmental reports. Preston, we'll put you first. Steve's not here. I'm actually doing his report, but he gave me the information. His wife's having surgery this morning, so he couldn't be here.
Yes, thanks. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Eventually, yeah. You can have mine whenever. Well, thanks. That's good enough.
Well, good morning. I missed the last one. We had some issues that day, so I'll just get started here. So this summer we chipped 1,000 south and 1,400 south. They were just little. One was a quarter mile, one was a half mile dirt road that had asphalt on both ends. So we filled them in. We chipped Rollo Lane, which is 4,000 north. It was about a mile. And then we also chipped Vandenberg Road, 2.5 miles of it.
And how much is left of Vandenberg to get to the Sunset subdivision?
About 1.5 miles.
And that'll be done next.
Yeah, I plan on next September is what I'd be shooting for. And then there'll be about another 1.5 miles to get it to Highway 56. And so I would expect that would be the following year. We also did a lot of patched a lot of roads with our wet winter. We had quite a bit of patching to do. And then some of the other roads we chipped was Cane Springs, Chimney Meadows. We did the third coat on those. 2200 West, which is the one by KB Oil. We put the third coat on that one, the one in Parowan here. 8 Westview and 800 South, 3000 North, Bulldog Road, Mid Valley Road, and 2300 West. We also did some iron wolfing up to Canara Mountain. Did from the bottom up to the red ledges. Made that, it seems like it's a lot nicer. And then we also did 3 miles of Lund Highway.
Tore up the old asphalt that was.
Yeah, just more of to try it out to see. It makes me nervous to do all of it and find out there's no good base under the bottom of it and have it all come apart. So it was kind of a test.
So what'd you do? You roto-milled it and then?
Just in play, just mix it and it is roto-mill, and it's like be like tilling your garden, and it just mixes breaks the asphalt up and kind of makes road base, and then just roll it back down and grade it.
You know, that the Iron Wolf they don't actually take it off and put it in a truck and haul it away like roto-mill. It just grinds it. It has diamond teeth. It's quite the machine.
So like Canara Mountain, it works good for you get the big rock and stuff, bust it all up into, it probably busted into 4-inch size rock. So it makes it a lot nicer, and we usually are able to pull a lot of the rocks that are on the side of the road in, the big ones, and bust them all up. So it makes the roads wider, and it does a good job.
Who do we hire to do that?
They're actually called Iron Wolf. They're from up north, up in Salt Lake.
Sounds like quite a machine.
Yeah, it's pretty simple. It's on the front of a loader. It sounds better than it is, I guess, but it really does a good job, and it's quick. He can do at least a mile in a day, depending on what you have. So when he was out on Lund Highway, he did that 3 miles in a day and a half. So it flew down there. Looking ahead, we will be working on 7700 West. Or Lakeshore. There's a mile and a half there that we're going to chip next year. Right now I just have 2 dips to fill in, and then it will be, and we got to put a couple culverts in, then it would be ready to go next year.
I love all these being done. That's one less phone call, one less phone
Yeah.
call.
Well, like the Vandenberg Road,
I'm grading my road.
it gets like 250 or 300 cars a day on it. We put our traffic counter on there just to see. That's pretty hard to maintain a gravel road with that much traffic on it. So.
We would have had that done years ago, but previous road department superintendent said there's so much drifting of snow there. He wanted to leave it that way so we could get a cat in, but we've decided we've got to do it. So we have, and just move the snow with.
So I've been kind of looking into a snow blower. Probably won't happen this year, but I got to see about the loaders and stuff like that to fit it to. But it sounds like it'll be really a good thing, especially
when you raise the road up, will it?
It's still got, not like it has in the years, but last year it was pretty. There was one storm that it got pretty bad out there, but with as much wind out there, it sounds like the snow blower, you can shoot it up in there, and they'll have to worry about it over on Highway 56. That's what we hope for.
Sounds good.
So yeah, and then I'd just continue working on Vandenberg Road, and I would like to go out on the Hart Road and get going on that, kind of get that. And I don't know if you guys know where that's at. That's out in Newcastle. So instead of going left into Newcastle, down Main Street, you'd go right. We'd like to there's about 5 miles out there that we'd like to get chipped eventually. And it shouldn't be near the project that like Vandenberg Road has been. It's just more need to widen it out and put road base on it. Where Vandenberg Road, we needed to build it all up. It was down in a hole. So that'll be another one we'll be working on. And then just getting ready for winter. So snowplow stuff and different things. Any other questions?
Are you going to be around? Are you going to leave after this meeting, or?
Yeah, I was going to, but what do you need?
Well, I met with Pete Surrey out there.
The shop.
Wade came by and talked about some things with the new building, with oil water separators and which direction we want to go, and we could talk about it later, I guess. But
yeah, so I can be back. Just I guess let me know when you.
Did you want to go meet on site though? We talked about meeting on site.
That's true, weren't we?
So we could kind.
That might be good.
Yeah.
So I'd say just give me a call whenever you're.
So, what if we come back later today and meet you on site and just talk about a few things?
What time are you guessing?
3-ish, maybe.
Okay.
Yeah. Or if this meeting lasts as short as the agenda, we might come down this morning before lunch and then have to run back here. Anyway, we'll see how it all works.
Yeah, to
out.
see. I'll be around
Be
just
around.
doing some stuff, so should be good.
Okay, thank you. Great report. We appreciate our road department very much.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, Bruce, good morning.
How are you guys today?
Good. How are you, Bruce? Thank you.
Thank you. I guess for the public, I shouldn't just say Bruce. Bruce Anderson, our landfill director.
You're good. You're good.
Preston Nelson, our road superintendent.
Well, we enjoy the casualness, that's for sure. That's good with me. Thank you for letting me be here today. This first paper, just the report, budget's online, looks good. Just preparing the next year's. Things are looking good there. Just finished the fall water sample Thursday. Send it off and haven't got results, but I'm assuming they'll be normal. All three of our new guys that we've hired are working out well. They're all trained on the routes now and doing well. I'm excited about them. They're good help. We'll be grinding up our trees. You know, the tree limbs that we have. We put it out to bid, but we only had one bidder reply. That is Diamond Tree Service, and they'll be here in the 1st of October, hopefully.
So was that single bid favorable compared to what we've done in the past?
Yeah, it's pretty close.
Kind of scary sometimes when you only get one bid.
We send it out to 3, but only return to 1. And then the one that's not on here is now that Sunset subdivision has been chipped and fixed. We'll probably go to individual cans there. That'll make it a lot easier for us. It's only add 6 miles to Ralph's route. So I'm sure that they'll enjoy that, the people in that subdivision. Then we're just looking forward to the next couple of months. And most of our equipment's running well. We got the one loader down that's down to Honan, and unsure what's the matter with it right now, but hopefully we'll know this week. And then this next one is just a snapshot of 2019, 2018, and it goes all the way back to 16. And that shows you how much more we're doing now than we were in 16 and in which areas. So the top one is 2019 as of yesterday, from January 1st to 9/22. So there's a significant, if you go back 4 years, there's a significant amount of growth. But between last year and now, there's 3,000 more tons in MSW. So we're good, steady, slow growth.
As I've said many times, it's a good indicator of economic
Absolutely.
economic health. If the landfill is getting more garbage, definitely people have more money to spend, and of course our population's increasing. So
Yeah, so to that, I counted the new cans. Some of them are second cans to already homes, but we've taken out 134 new cans from January 1st to
wow.
Friday. So some of them, that's not all new housing, but I'll bet you it's 90%, 85% new housing.
So how many do we have total? Do you know that number? off the
Just
top?
under 4,000, including mountain cabins. I guess it might be just over 4,000, including mountain cabins. So
I can't figure that percentage in my head, but anyway, that's a pretty good jump.
yeah.
So
I think when I started, it was 3,200.
really,
Yeah, that was 2013. So, do you have any questions?
I guess not. Thank you.
thank you.
Appreciate the work you do out there. We have Shane Manueli with us, who is our newly hired indigent defense coordinator. Is that the proper title?
I
Coordinating public defender, administrative public defender.
Coordination.
Yeah.
Anyway, we'll give Shane a minute to say whatever he would like. We're so glad to have you with us.
Thank you. So I interviewed for this position for the coordinating public defender. I've worked for a number of years doing contract public defense work out in Nevada, and I've really enjoyed my time doing that. I took a switch and went to Las Vegas, where I now prosecute attorneys as part of the Nevada State Bar. My family and I have wanted to get back to Iron County for a long time. I met my wife in Cedar City and went to school here. And when this grant came open, or this position, I applied for it and was very excited that I'd had the qualifications and would be considered for it. So I'd like to do this. I know it's a new position. It's almost it's a pilot program throughout the state, is my understanding. I've been working with Joanna, who's the Indigent Defense Commission director. Been talking to her all week. Actually listened to one of their meetings this week to kind of get up to speed. But this position I know is a new one, and we'll get it figured out, and I think it'll be a really good position, looking at the core principles and the desires that the state and the county have to give indigent defendants the proper representation. Those are good benchmarks and good goals that are had, and so I'll do everything I can to help us reach those.
Very good. Glad to have you with us. Glad you're able to come back home. Yeah, I understand your wife's from Newcastle, and so that's always good to be able to come back home.
Yeah.
I wish I could get some of my kids back here. They're all scattered around because they don't have jobs here. Anyway.
Oh, just thank you. It's I sit on the Indigent Defense Fund board for the state, and I mean it's really tough getting quality representation sometimes, and we're stoked to have you.
Thanks. Thank you.
We went through the interview process, and Shane really stood out, and they were all great. You know, we have some great individuals working for us, but I was impressed with your experience out in some of the rural areas. I think that'll lend itself well to our county, and so we're really excited to work with you.
Thank you. And so, do you want me to hang out? I noticed the agenda item's not till 10 o'clock.
You don't have to. No.
So
I promise you'll be approved. You don't have to stay. No.
As far as my contract goes, I think the county attorney is approving it as to form. I don't know if it's.
It just came in
Okay.
by email. I think it was, she copied me. I think she sent it to Chad,
Okay.
our county attorney.
And just to be upfront, one thing that Joanna and I talked about is there's a year's worth of funding, and so we discussed using that year's worth over the course of the last 3 quarters, that full amount. And so that's one thing I didn't want to think I was sneaking anything in, but Joanna and I did discuss that, and so that is in the current language of the contract. And then everything else, it will add the additional administrative responsibilities, as well as keep me on the hook for representation itself. Joanna and I discussed the fact that this is not a strict administration position, that I will work to free up a lot of the caseload for the other attorneys, and I'm happy to do that. That's what I'm familiar with. It's the admin stuff that'll be new for me.
So will you evaluate that and see what district court or district versus juvenile you'll do? I mean, as far as your caseload?
I left that open because I would like to, I plan on covering wherever I'm needed. And so if I do need to cover juvenile, the current contracts indicate that we'll stay within the contract. And so that'll just free us up to not have to go outside for conflict counsel. I'll be an additional individual to take those cases. So I left it open that I'll be able to go to any court that I'm needed in to do any work that's needed.
Sounds good.
Super. Very good.
Okay. Well, I'll probably hang out for a little bit, and then I might take off. Thank you.
You're welcome to stay, and you're welcome to leave, whichever you like. Thanks so much.
And Mike, we could probably get that on the next agenda if you guys are that contract.
Yeah, I'll have to look at it and then we can get on the next agenda.
Okay, we've had a change in our building department. Chad Ney has retired on August 28th, I think it was, and so we didn't put them on the agenda today. But Reed Erickson is our interim, and if you'll just take a minute or two, Reed, and just tell us how things are going.
Yeah, I can do that. I'm sorry I requested to be taken off the agenda, but I have several items here I can cover, and And I didn't have a full building report in terms of the number of building permits and all of that, but there are several things that I can discuss, so just
Very
take
good.
a few minutes.
You got plenty of time?
I appreciate that. I might just start by mentioning that you may have seen the teaser on the news that there will be a report tonight at 10 o'clock about building officials in the state of Utah and the shortage. It might be interesting for you to tune into that. I can't remember what channel it was on, whether it was NBC or CBS.
I've seen the ad though.
Yeah, and what they're trying to do is there's a problem up north especially, and they have tried to explain what impact that's having in the building industry and in the economy of the state of Utah and being able to get building inspectors. And so you might, if you have an opportunity to tune that in tonight. Right now, Terry told me this morning that there are 17 positions in the state of Utah open, people looking for inspectors, that there is a severe shortage of inspectors right now. And he mentioned he sits on the Doppel licensing board, and they met last week. He said that, I can't remember the percentage, I think it was 45% of the licensed inspectors in the state of Utah will retire in the next 5 years. So they're looking down the road saying, we have a problem now, but we're really going to have a problem within the next 5 years or so, because I remember Chad mentioning a lot of his associates were all in that same age group and years of experience in planning on retiring within the next few years. So I think the state of Utah is going to see, some challenges in that regard. But anyway, we have 3 good inspectors right now that are full inspectors, and then one that's partial, and we're covering things adequately right now. But the focus, of course, because things are busy in the building world, they are not doing some of the other functions that they are assigned as in terms of maintenance specifically and zoning enforcement, part of their other responsibilities. And so there are challenges in that regard, and we'll have the opportunity to talk about that as we get into budget and try to figure out how to address those concerns. Some of the other things that I just would take the opportunity to visit with you about, and just let you know that upcoming on the next couple of commission meeting agendas, next meeting is I've scheduled the public hearing for the urban farming ordinance so that'd be October 14th, which is the next meeting. The Planning Commission made a recommendation on that, and so we'll be bringing that forward. And then we have the 5900 North assessment area that will be on the agenda for the 28th. That will be the end of the 60-day protest period, and we will have it drafted to go forward. I don't know whether, John, you've received any protest letters at this point. But that's
I'm sorry,
the 5900 assessment area. We got a couple of assessment. We are required 5 days prior to the closing of the assessment or the protest period to post online what the calculation is up to that point, and we'll email that out and have that available. But that's the next step in that process. We hear regularly from one of the participants in there that you're familiar with, and she keeps requesting why we're not taking her out, and she keeps sending emails to that regard. So we just try to address that and let her know that until the protest period is over, there will be nothing else done until that point. So I will mention on the Sunset Subdivision assessment area, Bruce mentioned that they will be putting garbage cans at individual homes because that road improvement. They can now get into that subdivision and service better. The project is completed. Steve told me that by the end of this week we would have a final cost on that by the contractor and be able to wrap that up. I visited with Matt Dugdale, George K. Baum, our financial municipal advisor, and he indicates that once we have that final price, then he can solicit bids from financial institutions and try to get something a little more concrete in terms of that, and we can set the calendar out for when the Board of Equalization based on the previous action that the commission took, when they would, well, we already scheduled, we have to start advertising those soon. So we'll start that process, and once we have that final amount, then I'll get with John and those that need to do the advertising, and we'll get that process started. So it turned out to be a nice project. I don't know if any of you have had an opportunity to get out there, but it really made a difference, and it's really going to be nice out there. And so we do have, I think there was one individual who hadn't protested originally, who had sent a protest letter in that will probably appeal the assessment because he's out on Vandenberg Road, not within the subdivision. And we talked about those two that we had that way and the improvements that they would still be receiving even though they're not have direct frontage on the road. And you heard one of them just now. Right now they have to take their garbage in to one central location where the big dumpster is. Now they'll be able to have a can at each place, and there's a number of other things there, but we'll have to get into that more when we talk about it. One of the questions related to that bonding, though, is whether the commission has determined whether they are comfortable in backing the bond with the county's bonding credentials. We had talked about that with Matt, and we said we just need to decide that by the time we get ready to go to bond, and whether we're soliciting from the financial institutions with the backing of the county, or whether that project stands on its own as an assessment area, and they will be assessment bonds, but whether the county backs that financially in the event that there's not sufficient funds. If somebody doesn't pay, then of course the county has to go through the process. And we talked about it would just be a matter of the county coming up with an amount for the financial support of the bond itself, so that there was enough in the fund to make one annual payment. And we just need to decide whether you want to have additional discussion on that, or if you're comfortable on going forward with that. I can let Matt know so that they can solicit based on the county's support backing of those bonds. I think it'll help our interest rate. He's saying, anywhere from 0.5% to 1%, which would make a difference for the project. And so, our suggestion is, and you heard Dan previously, Dan Jessen, he's not here, but was comfortable in doing that. Felt like that would not be a burden to the county. It doesn't impact our financial bonding capacity or anything else. So we should be in good shape there. Any thoughts on that? Are you comfortable in having a solicit that way? And if we find that creates a problem, then we can always step back, but at least we can solicit that way and see what we can get.
Okay, I see nods.
Okay,
So,
yeah, sounds good.
Thank you.
I will also mention that George K. Baum, I forwarded an email on Friday, I believe, explaining that they had been bought out by a company by the name of Stifel Nicholson and Company. I was assured that business will continue as usual, and that they will serve our account as they have. And I've talked to Dan. We are in that process still of soliciting proposals for municipal financial advisors. So George K. Baum was simply contracted for the bonding of the assessment areas. But outside of that, we will have to get someone under contract again, because the contract had expired, and we had provided notice to Zion Bank that was terminating, because they said they still had a standing contract, and so we had two at the same time. And so Dan we're in the process of bidding that, and we'll solicit proposals for that, and that'll be coming up. I'd also sent you an email this morning. I don't know if you'd had an opportunity to see that. You recall a couple of years ago, the county in 2017 issued bonds for the student housing project, Founders Hall. It was about, I can't remember on the email, was it 17 million or 23 million? Somewhere along in that line for the tax benefits that come when they issue bonds through the county for the Dixie and Ann Levitt Foundation, Family Foundation. And they've requested that again for this new student housing project. It would be about $9 million. So we'll talk about that more, but I just want to make you aware of that, and that's a consideration at this point. They've asked us to evaluate that and to look at that, and Dan and I will discuss that and then make a recommendation to the commission.
For the public out there and watching, We did this before, as Reed said, but it has no effect on our bonding capacity, and there's no liability to the county. So we were happy to do it because obviously SUU is a wonderful part of our community, and we want to support them and the students, the growing institution there. So anyway, just wanted to make sure the public knew that it creates no liability whatsoever for the county.
Yeah, in fact, the financial advisor reminded me that we couldn't even make a payment if we wanted to. Even if we wanted to add to their payment obligation, we couldn't. It would be against the law. So we're strictly hands off. The advantage for them is that it provides them a tax benefit to the foundation, and it allows them to get it at a better rate. And so there's tax implications that are beneficial to the project.
Reed, my son is under contract on that building, so I'll be recusing myself on that for the record.
Okay,
So.
very good. Yeah, so as we get going on that, that'd be good to be aware of that.
Yeah.
Appreciate it. I'll also mention, I don't know how much time you want me to take, Alma.
We've got plenty. Go ahead.
I've got a list of things here. I realized it would be good to
Gotta
talk
take
with the
up 25
commission
more minutes. So.
while I have the opportunity.
I've got Steve's report that I'm giving, so if you leave me 5 minutes for that, we're
Okay, good. I wanted to discuss make you aware of where we are with the second mound prairie dog property, which is the conservation easement that we bought on the 300 acres that was given to us. I shouldn't say we bought, but through the Nature Conservancy and Fish and Wildlife Service, got funding to purchase that 300 acres. It was about $1 million to create a habitat for prairie dogs that would be managed for prairie dog habitat. We've been grazing it. We did, you recall, we did a bond on that. We've had it a year now, and so Nature Conservancy, who is the easement holder that holds a conservation easement on the property, was here on Tuesday, and Mike and I, we met on the property, and we reviewed the project, the property, and everything, and we're great within the scope of our conservation easement. But we also talked with them about the WRI project that we have, which is the Watershed Restoration Initiative funding that comes primarily to public land areas that as funds put in from a number of different agencies, state agencies, federal agencies, BLM, Forest Service, trying to kind of cooperatively do projects on the land that make sense based on the land rather than just the geographic borders of ownership. And so we're part of a larger area there along the front that's a wildlife management area from DWR. And they saw great benefit in what we were proposing for a irrigation / watering project for livestock and wildlife. And this will allow us to drill a well. We got a grant for $50,000 for phase 1 to drill a well on the property. It'll be solar pumps with troughs that we'll put at 3 or 4 different locations. The well will be down kind of on the lower end of the property towards I-15, and then we will pump the water back up to troughs more on the south end, the higher end of the property, closer to Old Highway 91, and then we'll overflow those tanks, and it'll just spread out across the land there and allow the prairie dogs to find greener areas that they can then disperse, because they're kind of concentrated in a couple of areas on the property in order to take advantage of the 300 acres and to maximize the benefit of the property for prairie dog habitat. Then this is a way that we plan to do that.
One
As part of that
question while you're
project,
there, why not put the well on the higher end and gravity flow it down?
there's a possibility of doing that, but with the solar pumps, that seemed to be the best location for the well, and it was more isolated from the highway so that the panels wouldn't get shot. Their idea was that if we can move those away a little bit and kind of put them about halfway between the interstate and the Old Highway 91, that they may be safer. And be less vandalism and shooting.
I knew you had a good reason, but I just
that's those guys at the NRCS and Stan Gurley. I don't know if you know him, but that was their suggestion, and thought that would be the best way to do the project. And they know a lot more about that stuff than we do, so we defaulted to them.
Question, have you heard any issues with the water rights out there?
Yeah.
Is there, you work through that? Or?
Yeah, well, we haven't worked through it all the way yet. There is this situation of quantity impairment that the state engineer has brought up, and that's a law that went into effect in 2015, but they're just kind of getting it implemented, and I won't say we're the guinea pig, but we're one of the first to run up against this. What it is, the water right that came with this property was assigned to a different property. There was never been water on this property, but when we bought the property, we got 15 acre feet of water that was assigned to property closer to the interchange out here, Holyoke and I-15, right there where that KB is and across the interstate. And there's some question right now as to whether that water has been used. We got a segregation. We filed first for segregation of the water, which means that we could pull our 15 acre feet out of that water right at that location. But now the question is whether we can transfer it from there to our property to drill the new well.
That's point of diversion.
Change the point of diversion. And they call it a change application. And the state engineer, the legislature in 2015 passed a law that said that any water that cannot show that it's been used for 7 years, any time in a 7-year period over the last 15 years, they have to show that it's been used within every 7 years over the last 15 years. And the state engineer is saying that their records indicate that it hasn't been used. And so they would not transfer that water or allow that change of diversion point of diversion or approve that change application. And so we're working with the Williams from whom we bought the property and trying to establish a use there and try to show whether what the water has been used or has been leased or something else, or else we may not have a water right.
What was the term, impairment?
Quantity impairment. That's the state engineer's term that they're saying that it's under quantity impairment because of our inability to show the beneficial use of that over the last 15 years.
I talked to Nate Moses, and he said that because of that new law, his job's getting very difficult.
Yeah. He feels bad. We kind of got caught in it. You know, it's just kind of they're getting up to board and enforcing that, and this seems to be an easy one for him to do, and we're, kind of up against it. Williams are frustrating because they've already sold water out of that same water right previously in the last few years that didn't have this problem, and now this has this problem because they hadn't really started enforcing that yet. And so we're still working through that. So I don't want to talk too much about that, but we're until we really know what's going to happen there, we don't know. So any questions about the property itself and what we're doing there? I think we've got a good project going there, and I think it'll be beneficial.
So I just drive by it every day, and is it the ryegrass that grows there?
Yes.
It sure.
That'll be
half a
phase
year
2.
for that grass is very tall.
Yeah, the challenge with getting prairie dogs across the property is that grass grows so tall that it inhibits their ability to see, and they won't move out into those areas. And that's part of why we want to get water out and green up some little areas and replant some different vegetation that's lower and that won't do that. And so phase 2 of this project with the WRI is to do a replanting. Take that ryegrass out, plant native grasses there, and try to improve that habitat. So we'll have grazers coming back on there again in the fall and really hit it harder and try to get a lot of that knocked down so that in the spring it might not be as bad.
A little better visibility for the dogs.
Yeah, the other thing I might mention just for the benefit of the public is that because it is a prairie dog habitat with a conservation easement for prairie dog management, we have done what we call a baseline survey on all of the adjacent properties around that, so that the Red Canyon subdivision is immediately to the east, the Allard Ranch subdivision is immediately to the south, and it's BLM on the east, on the west side, and Interstate really is kind of a barrier on the north side. So what we've done though is we've surveyed all of the properties within a half a mile of that property and given what we call a baseline letter saying here is the population, prairie dog population count on all of those properties. And if because of the conservation easement, if prairie dogs go off of that property onto those adjacent properties, then they will be able to remove those dogs. So they have a baseline at which they can stay. And in many respects, it's an advantage to be next to a conservation easement management property, because then you have, with a zero baseline survey, you never have to worry about dogs again. You can always go on and take those dogs if they come off, which isn't the case with all other properties. If dogs move, you deal with them where they are.
Are both
So-
those subdivisions zero based then?
Yes, all of the lots in the subdivisions
Yeah.
were. There were some properties on the north side that had a couple of dogs on them, but I think there was, I can't remember the total number, but I think there were only 2 out of 50 or 60 lots, properties within a half mile of that actually had dogs on. All the rest were zero baseline surveys.
That's good, because those people, especially in the Red Canyon subdivision,
They're
some of them
concerned.
were pretty,
Yeah,
very
they were
concerned, and so. I'm
And should
glad
be.
they- Oh,
This
yeah,
just
absolutely.
gives them a great avenue now to be able to address their concern if dogs do move.
And even if it wasn't zero, if it's 2 or whatever,
Yeah,
I mean,
they
that's,
would-
if you have a colony come in.
They
Yeah.
would be able to
Yeah.
reduce them. And we are managing that property right now, and we've done a vegetation plan for the property, and everything along the east side that borders that subdivision has sagebrush in it and is taller, and the dogs just haven't moved over that direction, and it is our intention to manage it that way, to keep kind of a vegetative buffer along that side and work more towards moving them out to the west and to the north end of the property. So have no intention of doing anything that would enhance their interest of going that direction towards the subdivisions.
So has the baseline letter already been sent to all the
Yes,
properties?
they were sent
Wonderful.
about 6 months or,
Good.
yeah, they were sent last fall actually, I think.
John, how hard would it be to pull that up real quick on the map, that property? I remember talking about it a long time ago, but I just, in my mind, I can't picture. It's east of the I-15, right? And is it south of the
Well,
Summit?
yeah, east and south of I-15, and it's east of Summit. It's immediately west of the Red Canyon Estates subdivision. You know where that is?
When you go on the old road to Summit, there's quite a long straight stretch, then you make a bit of a bend, right, just past where you make that, well, the subdivision's right there at that turn. And then this is just west of it. Here you go.
I don't have parcels on this one, but
Yeah, it's right here. This is good. It's this property, this is the Red Canyon Estates subdivision, I-15 and Old Highway 91. You can kind of see this reddish stuff here. This is the ryegrass that's so tall right now that's yellow. And when you drive out across there, you'll see that mule stream, those silhouettes that are right here. They're right about in the middle of the property. And so it runs from here along here and comes down. I can't see the fence line, looks like it might be right here. Here's the corner. This is like where we're gonna drill the well right here.
Where's the Summit interchange?
The Summit interchange is over here.
Okay, all right. Okay, perfect, okay. That helps me.
It's everything between I-15 and the old Highway 91, east or west of the Red Canyon Estate. Here's the Allard Ranch subdivision, which is the one that has the white fence, the white vinyl fence along the front of it. It's everything across the street from that up to this subdivision. So it's this property right here.
You won't need a lot of water for that, will you, to do what little bit you want?
No, 15 acre feet would have
That's oodles, right?
helped. You know, that can only irrigate 3.75 acres according to duty, but we've requested to distribute it different than that and actually measure it, meter it, and do a volume amount rather than on duty for 4 acre feet so that we can spread it out. And that would have been a good start. You know, that would have been a good way to get some water out on that land and to green up a few little areas. Part of the Phase 2 project is you'll see on that property that there are some pretty good washes that go down through there that have eroded. And our intention in the second phase is to put in what they call Z-dike structures, which are kind of build up and help with erosion, and it catches that water as it runs down there, and it's like putting little mini dams in there, and it backs that up and gives more areas to get green and have some better vegetation opportunities in those areas, in those drainages, and prevent some of the erosion that has eaten out some pretty good cuts down through there as well. So it's all those 20-acre lots right there that are identified together.
Yeah. Just to have a little bit of green will just help keep the dogs on there, and when the grasses get really dry, then they've got those succulent, and they'll stay there and they'll do better. So that would hopefully you can get.
Yeah, that's the plan. Hopefully we can get the water straightened out and be able to get it on there and get a well drilled. We were hoping to get a well drilled this fall, but because of the water rights issue, we may not be able to drill till the spring. So, any other questions on that project? Let me talk just for a minute about electric vehicles, if I can, breach this discussion, and talk to you a little bit about the project that we have going with First Solar, who is the company that bought that is running the new solar project, the most recent one that was approved and is currently under construction. They've just started scraping dirt and
That was Cove Mountain?
doing fencing. Cove Mountain, what did I say?
Just the most recent, I just was clarifying.
Okay, Cove Mountain 1 and Cove Mountain 2. And they are in combination 165, 170 megawatts. One was 45 and one was 125 or something like that. And they, as part of their response to our request to be good community partners, they've agreed to participate in, and I think Danny Stewart was here at one point and explained a little bit about our SunPower 24/7 campaign that we were trying to do with the exposure of the solar industry and our role with that, and the county's interest in solar development and what we're doing. And they have committed some money to us to help with a project that we would launch as part of this campaign, SunPower 24/7 campaign. Part of it was to put some solar on the visitor center and to put charging stations at the visitor center. And we have been meeting with contractors and consultants on the charging stations and what it would take to put solar on the building. We had budgeted last year some money in the maintenance department to put a charging station at the visitor center. And then we found out that a level 2 charge, if you're not familiar with electric vehicles, I'll just give you a 2-minute version of 3 types of charging stations. And we're going to see a lot more charging infrastructure coming our way in the electric vehicle and the evolution of the electric vehicle. I think we're going to see a lot of innovation and progress in the next 3 to 5 years. Actually, next year, there's going to be some pickup trucks come on the market that are just phenomenal, and they are really interesting. You go online and look. There's a truck called the Rivian, R-I-V-I-A-N, that is going to be on the market in 2020 that will have a 500-mile range and can charge in 15 minutes. And that's just going to change the nature of electric vehicle use in this country. And, well, around the world. Europe is quite a ways ahead of us right now in the electric industry for vehicles and charging. But there are 3 basic types of charging stations. The level 1 charger is what you have at your home that can be charged overnight. It's kind of a trickle charger, and it's just on a 110 outlet. That's what people would charge their vehicles at home. A level 2 charger is a 220 volt that can charge at about 2 to 4 hours, depending on the type of vehicle and its ability to accept a charge. And those are fairly inexpensive to put in. And when we started...
Single phase? Or
yeah, single phase. But the level 3, what they call the DC fast chargers, are really where the market is pushing but they are 480 3-phase expensive to put in. The chargers themselves are like $40,000, and it's going to cost us about $40,000 from Rocky Mountain Power just to get the service there and to have it put in. There is three-phase there, but we got to put a new transformer. We've got to run lines. To put it all in, it's probably going to cost us, over $100,000 to put that one charger in. We do have some contribution from the solar place to help do that and to put solar on the building. And Rocky Mountain Power has a really good incentive right now that they pay up to $30,000, well, $40,000 for a DC fast charger if it's a dual port fast charger. And when we started this less than a year ago trying to figure out how to put them in, everything was level 2 chargers. And level 2 chargers, you can put a level 2 charger in, which is the 240 volt, 220 volt, for a couple $1,000s. They are, especially if they're non-network chargers. So most places that provide electric charge for employees and for their own fleet do it with level 2 chargers, because you can put those in. Rocky Mountain Power told me that they could put them in for us they could put 10 level 2 chargers in for $2,000. So that's only $200 a piece but they are non-network chargers. Part of the challenge in the industry right now, there's a real kind of a shift towards everything should be network chargers, and everybody wants DC fast chargers because of the real challenge to move the electric vehicle industry forward is the charging time, the range of the vehicle, and the time it takes to charge. You can get in an electric vehicle right now and drive to Salt Lake, and there are a number of charging stations along the way, DC fast charging stations. They have a Charge America campaign that the federal government put out, and they put a lot of charging stations on main interstate corridors. So you can go all across the country. They have apps that are really quite interesting that you can get on, and you can see where all the charging station is. You put, just like Google Maps, where you pick a destination and it'll give you a route. Well, this will give you a route based on where all the charging stations are. You put your range in, and it'll tell you how far you can go and where all the charging stations are. Tesla, you may be familiar more with them and what they're doing, but they've been really aggressive in going out and getting charging infrastructure, and they have more chargers in the out than anyone else. But the Tesla chargers, you can only charge a Tesla vehicle on a Tesla charger, but you can charge a Tesla vehicle on any other network charger. So most places are trying to put in other chargers because all of the other vehicles use this other type of charger, and only Tesla can charge on their own charger. And so they are the industry leader right now in charging and in vehicle design and build. But now the rest of the world is kind of catching up, and a lot of the other places are doing electric vehicles. Part of this campaign and what we had asked from First Solar, long story short, is that we had asked them for funding to help put in the charging station and to get an electric vehicle that we could put a little wrap on that would help advertise solar industry and our role in it. So part of this SunPower 24/7 campaign, we wanted to help have a little website on the link on the county's website to explain, a little bit about our role and how many megawatts we're producing in Iron County, what that does for our tax base, a little bit about the jobs and the projects, and just provide some information for the industry. Because part of, I think, the big advantage to us and what we really want to get in, and this is kind of where the industry is going, is that with renewables, the real challenge is storage. And the next real big industry in relation to renewables is going to be storage, renewable storage, so that sun can generate during the day and then release the power at night that's been stored during the day. And as we've permitted the last several projects, we have had a component or authorized a component in the conditional use permit for what they call a BESS system, which is a battery energy storage system that allows the site to be built larger than what it needs to produce their contract amount during the day, to store some and then release it on those off-peak hours.
None of those have taken advantage of that yet, though.
No one has,
Originally
but
talked about
the new one that we're talking with Appaloosa about, that we'd permitted previously out on Lund Highway, their early design will have some kind of component.
Okay.
The technology for battery and storage has just not caught up with the production of the panels themselves and what the panels can do. All of the emphasis in the industry has been the panel development, and that has really improved significantly over the years. Our first project, Utah Red Hills, produces 80 megawatts of solar, and they're doing it on about 800 acres, 770 something acres. They can produce that same amount of power now on less than 600 acres, just because of the efficiency of the solar, and they're smaller and they're much more efficient, and the price of those have come down dramatically from that first production. So a lot of the technology now and innovation in the industry is working on storage, and you may have heard of the new project up in Millard County, just there by IPP, where they are going to do a salt. They have some salt pits there, and they're doing a compressed air storage project of 1,000 megawatts. They're going to do solar development there next to the IPP plant for 2,000 megawatts, which is twice what we already have developed in all of Iron County right now. We have over 1,000 megawatts, which is huge. In terms of how much power that's generating, that generates, in rough numbers, enough electricity for over 600,000 to 800,000 homes. So that's a lot of power that's going out into the grid right now. But what we want to try to capture in the industry is some of the innovation, and we've talked with SUU and Southwest Tech about trying to help in the technology for storage, for that large capacity storage, and one of this compressed air project in Millard County is going to be an interesting one. But there's a lot of different technologies where they pump the water up to a higher elevation and then release it and run turbines to do it during the night. And there's just all kinds of different ways to do it. Batteries themselves with different kinds of liquid transfers and lithium ion, and there's a number of different things. And what Danny and I have been working on is trying to say we are positioned such that we would be a good place to put some of that kind of development interest in terms of new business and things in developing that industry. So that's why we kind of wanted to get some of this going. And so I'm about out of time, but I will just kind of wrap up and say I've talked with some of the employees that would benefit from electric vehicle use, like the assessor's office and a fleet system where we could put level 2 chargers in at a lower rate. And there's good incentives right now for government and companies to buy electric vehicles. Rocky Mountain Power will give $5,000 to the purchase of any vehicle. And the charging stations themselves, they'll pay up to 75% of the chargers up on a DC fast charger, up to $30,000 or $40,000 for a dual port. So we're going to take advantage of all those. And I think we can put solar on the visitor center that will generate enough power to power the DC charger, and we're going to put 2 or 4 level 2 chargers in as well, and talk to Maria about getting an electric vehicle. Danny already got approval for the city to get a hybrid electric vehicle, and we wanted to get one as part of this campaign. And then we're working with Utah Clean Cities to do a survey of all of the county employees to see how they would benefit and how many would be interested if we had level 2 chargers at the workplace where they could charge during the day for commuter vehicles and fleet vehicles, so that I could come with a little better presentation and explain, okay, this is where we are today and this is where we'd like to go in the next 5 years, and these are some of the things we need to get there. The reason that it's important to discuss now is because we don't want to spend a bunch of money trying to put some infrastructure in, and as we've looked at the cost of putting the infrastructure in for the DC fast chargers, if we know what we want for the future, it's easier to run the lines for higher capacity, put a transformer in that can handle two DC fast chargers instead of just one, if we want that growth, if we want that opportunity. The reason that we want it at the visitor center is because the charging stations, there's not a lot available in Cedar City currently. You're aware of the new ones that they put out at Walmart. Those are DC fast chargers. There's one at Maverick out on the north end of town, but that's all that's available currently in the Cedar area. And Maria has mentioned several times that they have a lot of visitors come or call and request where they can get charged. They want to be able to do that. And we thought if somebody needed to come there and they could charge while they go to the museum, they come to the visitor center, gives them an opportunity to stay a little longer, to learn a little more about the area. And so I think with the funding that we've got committed and what we've budgeted and maybe what we can budget in this next year, then I think the county can get into the electric vehicle market with 1 or 2 vehicles this next year and kind of start that direction. I think it's going to be an interesting thing to have happen, and I think we can benefit from that. Utah Clean Cities has provided a lot of information to show the cost-benefit analysis for having electric vehicles in fleets and how much cheaper they can be over time, and what the cost of power is. And I think there's an interesting future there that we've been trying to learn a little bit about and get started with, but want to do it correctly and with the ability to get the right infrastructure in. So that's going to be the big concern.
Okay, thanks so much for the
That's
information.
way too much, but thank
I
you.
can say, Reed, let me know next time you don't want to give a report. I'll schedule you for an hour and a half. Just giving you a hard time.
Thank you, Reed. All good information. Okay, this is Steve Platt's report. He's our county engineer, and his wife's having surgery this morning, so that was more important place for him to be. His budget's on track. Sunset Subdivisions we talked about. The construction's complete. The final payment to Mel Clark, who did the job, will be next week. The Alton, and you all 5 have this. Just go over the ones that are highlighted. The Alton Coal project, nothing has happened to this point, but that's the situation where we'd need to upgrade the Iron Springs Road at the cost of about $5 million that we're going to go to CIB and hopefully be able to get that money when the time comes.
Do we need to take any kind of action on that to help it move forward?
We don't at this point. We were ready to go to CIB, but then the Alton Coal wasn't ready, and so we have to wait until they're going to be ready to start building their loading facility out there on the railroad, and then we'll move forward. Excuse me. Number 4. Because of the Bryan Head fire, it seems like money flows, and the two bridges up Parowan Canyon, first left hand and second left hand, that are both just barely off of 143, will be replaced this fall, and we got a bid tabulation attached here. So first left hand is $379,744. Carter Enterprises actually won both of these bids. The second left hand is $336,590. We have $700,000, and this adds up to about $716,000. So we're going to work out something to do, hopefully with Parowan City joining with us to do some in-kind work for that $16,000, which should be very easy to be able to do that in kind. And the EWP project at Paragoonet's actually at the Little Creek Canyon for $1 million, 75% grant, 25% local match. Curtis, our track hoe operator, Curtis DeMille is hauling riprap from the landfill to make our match. Bid tabulation for that is attached, the wide one. Got a engineer's estimate was $639,400, and Progressive Contracting PCI came in at $456,044. So very favorable bid on that. So the extra funds will go back to the federal government. They can use it on another project. So very favorable there. And that project, I believe, will be accomplished this fall. And you can see there's going to be riprap, flood control berm, fencing, remove and replace 24-inch aluminum slide gate, 12-inch slide gate, concrete flood wall, diversion structure repairs, and in the second one there's a quite large box culvert and so on that'll be constructed there that will help that situation and hopefully be able to handle the next big flood. The Parowan Watershed Protection and Flood Prevention Operations Project, which is much bigger for the whole Parowan front due to the Bryan Head fire. When the engineer's estimate came in, it was much higher than we thought. It's about $25 million for the whole project. For the numerous projects that will be done over many years, so it had to be moved from an EA to an EIS, so that will hold that up for a while, but that should go forth in the next few years. As far as FEMA flood mapping, closing the current mapping project and starting a new July 9, 2019. And this will be done in 2025, so that's going to take quite a while. Yes.
Can I just mention that, which is
Yeah.
actually quite a good thing?
Yeah.
FEMA has gone back and they're doing LiDAR now over the whole county so that they have a different source of information for all of their elevations, and it'll give a 2-foot contour over the whole county, and they'll be able to do a lot more accurate mapping, and the new flood maps then will be reflected because of that new technology, and it will really improve the efficient or the accuracy of the mapping that we have.
Yeah, and we don't want anybody building in a floodplain, but there's certain areas that you could build, but the present information says you can't, and so it's going to open up some areas. And thank you for that explanation. Westview Subdivision, South Central is putting in fiber optics there in 4 phases. And I don't know if you've noticed here between here and Summit, they're starting to put more fiber optics in along the freeway. I don't know how far north that goes, but I've seen it from Parowan to Summit. So a lot of activity in that way. Okay, I think that's about it. The Quichapa recharge / material source crushing project will be getting soon, and there will be a crushing project for the Hart Road that Preston Nelson mentioned. So that is Steve's report. Commissioners, do you have anything?
Where do we get the material for that Newcastle crushing? Is it that pit that's off the road there?
There was several pits. I know Bob Holt had some areas. I'm not sure which one Preston shows, but they kind of had some trouble finding a good one, but they finally did, and so they've got one there.
Just a couple of things really fast because we're running out of time. Commissioner Cousins and I had an opportunity to visit Washington, D.C. a week before last to rally for our PILT and SRS payments. I feel like that was really productive. NACO actually set those appointments up, and we met with 8 different legislators on both sides of the aisle. I think we met with John Curtis, was the only one from Utah. The rest of them were from Colorado.
Awesome.
But I think it was really beneficial to try and help people understand the importance of PILT and how it affects our budget and our economy here in Iron County. Just overall, I think that was a really productive, beneficial trip. We also had an opportunity to meet with the White House. The majority of that was public lands and issues that affect us directly in Iron County, and I really feel like our voice is heard there. That we've built some relationships with the current administration as well as in the legislature. That I think it's unprecedented that small counties like us have a voice federally, that we can actually see some things happen. And that was just I think that was a really productive and good trip.
That's a good
Very good.
report.
Thank
I'll
you
echo
both.
that. My brother-in-law works for Senator Paul, and I had a chance to visit with him early one morning back there, and he's it's interesting comparing in Arkansas, or in is it not Arkansas? Where's he from? Is it Arkansas? He is 4.5% federally owned versus 60% in Iron County and 81% in Nevada. So he was familiar with it and favorable to our cause, and so we made some headway. It was good. So.
Very good. Thank you very much. I just quickly met last week with Adam Snow of Congressman Stewart's office, who was here. He's been in and out a little bit. I was going to have him give any report he might have. But anyway, in Garfield County, Dixie National Forest, the Cedar and Pine Valley areas, and the Forestry, Fire, and State Land to discuss areas needing of the forest needing treatment. We did a matrix, and it was very good. Brian Bremner, who's good at those kind of things, he came from Garfield County and helped us with the matrix, and so we got some good priorities set in that meeting for treatment. That's all. Are you okay without a break, Commissioner?
Yeah.
Okay, we'll forego our break and start into the public appointments. Number one, public comments. Are there any comments from the public? If there are, please come forward and state your name. I thought maybe you were going to give a comment, Mike. Okay. Okay. There's one last call. Any comments from the public? Okay. Seeing none, we'll go on to item 2. Requesting a donation for the Senior Companion and Foster Grandparent Program, requested by Joanne Lyman, representing Senior Companion and Foster Grandparent. Good morning. How are you?
Good morning. I'm good.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So after all your big numbers, mine just seems really small. But I have a little saying. It says, to the world you may just be one person, but to one person you may be the world. And that's how I feel about my programs, is that sometimes we're the world to some of these people we serve. So I thought I'd just give you a little update on what we're doing. Our program now has 41 senior companions and foster grandparents. In Iron County, we have 7 senior companions, and in Washington County, we have 8 senior companions. So I know I probably said this before, but it is way easier to get our volunteers in Iron County than it is in Washington County. So I just think that says a lot about the people you have here. In Iron County, we have 12 foster grandparents, and in Washington County, we have 12. So we're even there. But with the population difference, I think
we're
that
doing really well.
really shows a big difference, yeah. So for those that don't know a little bit about our program, all the volunteers have to be over 55. They have to be a little bit lower income, meaning for a single person, they have to make less than $2,000 a month. And most of mine make quite a bit less than that. I don't know how they live on it, but they make quite a bit less. So the program was designed about 50 years ago to help seniors make a little extra money. Low-income seniors make a little extra money. So senior companions go to the homes of other seniors. They take them shopping. They take them to doctor's appointments. It's a free service to the clients they serve. We reimburse them for mileage, and They can take them to get their haircut. Sometimes they can just provide a little respite, let their loved ones get out and about and do their errands. Foster grandparents go to the schools and work one-on-one with the kids. They don't do what I call cutting and pasting. They just work one-on-one with the kids. So they're not like the copier person, or they're not the librarian or the recess person. They're working one-on-one with kids, teaching reading and helping them with those things. So that's where we are with you guys. You can see the figures there. That represents quite a bit of travel and quite a bit of service hours that they're doing. If a person had to pay for the services that our volunteers are doing, it'd be about $20 an hour. So they're really providing great services. Do you have any questions? Anything?
So what is the exact ask then on this?
Oh, so last year I think you guys did about 500. I'm pretty sure it was 500.
You look that up, John. I sent you an email about that, but maybe you didn't get it.
I can try.
The last year's minutes.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it was 500. I'm hoping maybe a little bit more, but that would be great. Maybe it was 1,000. One year it was 500.
It's a good program. I know you asked me to come and speak the one time. It was fun to meet with those foster grandparents and companions, and yeah, good group of people.
They're a good group of people. They're really fun to work with.
Yeah.
And, you know, a lot of them start because they need the little extra cash, but they don't stay because of that. They stay because their people need them. What would they do without me? So it's a win-win for both the programs, both the people and the volunteers.
Oh, yeah.
In 16, we did 0, and this year the ask is 1,000. I don't.
I know last year we did approve some.
Was it 500?
Last year was 500, and
Yeah.
this year the ask was 1,000.
Yeah, but I would settle for 500. I'm not a very good salesman. But yeah, so the reason we ask for money is because we have to show community support for our programs. We have to have match money for our programs, and this is one way that we get a little bit of match money for the Corporation for National Community Service gives us the bulk, but they ask that we get a little bit community support. So
I'm fine with $1,000 myself.
That's fine.
Me too.
I'll make that motion to donate $1,000 for the Senior Companion Foster Grandparent Program.
thank you.
I'll second.
Been moved and seconded that we donate $1,000 to the Senior Companion Foster Grandparent Program as requested. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries.
Thank you very much.
You bet.
Thanks for your time.
All you do.
Appreciate you.
Thank
you. You must have been an okay salesman.
Good program. Item number 3, discussion and possible donation for an ice skating rink requested by Staley Brothers. We have Dallin Staley here today to speak to this item.
Mr. Chair, before we get into this, I will comment on this, but as far as any vote, I'll be abstaining from that. I feel like I have a conflict. So thank you.
Okay.
Okay. Well,
Go
thanks,
ahead, Al.
Thanks for having me here today, guys. I gave you a flash drive, John.
I'm working
Did you
on
get
it.
that? Okay. So I know we've all had real brief discussions, but I don't know that we've really talked in depth with anyone. So hopefully this will be, I guess the objective of my presentation today is to kind of get you up to speed on where the ice rinks come from, where it kind of is today, where we want to go with it, and kind of our current state, and then maybe just open up the discussion to start talking about a possible donation, in the weeks to come or whatever. So if that sounds good, that's what we'll do.
Great.
Go forward. Yeah, that's good.
Okay.
Thank you.
Do you have a clicker, or do you want me to just tell you to click ahead, or?
We have a couple different ways this can go, and sometimes it gets a little weird, but it should be okay. Let me just.
Okay, so we'll just run through this. So I'm just going to start at the very beginning. So I did not grow up as an ice skater or have anything to do really with ice skating. Let's see, I guess it says on here 2010 was the year we kind of got into it. Must have been 2009. We got bored during the winter, me, my brothers, and a couple of friends out on Brent Hunter's farm. So we started skating around on the ponds, found some hockey sticks at the DI and hit rocks around the pond and decided it was really fun. So you can see some pictures of where it went from there out on the farm. On the top left is the little rink, I'll call it, that we built with hay bales and a little plastic liner in the bottom there in the stack yard. And we did that just for a place for us to play where we didn't have to chase the rocks clear across the pond every which way. So it was kind of interesting. The first year we put it there, somehow word got out that it was there, and we had a couple of other groups of people that also liked hockey and came out and did it with us. It was pretty fun. So we were kind of hooked at that point, and we decided that hay bales weren't quite good enough, so we spent the next summer, you can see in the other two pictures, spent the next summer building the barriers out of plywood, made it so they had kind of rounded corners and made it really nice. And that's where the idea kind of took off. It was still only for us to go play hockey to entertain ourselves during the winter, but we kept the ice smooth with a landscape rake to scrape all the slush to the side and shovel it out, and then a hose that would squeegee the water into the tracks and everything. So it was pretty labor intensive to keep the ice smooth. But we did it because it was fun, and a lot of people just, kind of started with the ward and then the stake, and then people from all over the place started asking if they could come and do birthday parties or do different things out there. Within a couple of years, we had almost 2,000 people that had come and used that little thing on the pond there that we'd made for ourselves. So we decided that, hey, this is something pretty fun. We meant that we could keep the ice frozen and Zamboni and things that we really would need to do an open to the public ice rink. And somehow that all came together. I really don't know how. There was a few people, I guess, that believed in our ability to get it done, and somehow we got $93,000 in RAP tax funds from Cedar City, and Staley West, the family company, purchased all of the ice rink equipment. So it was a pretty even partnership there to get the ice rink in place. And along with the money, tons of volunteered man hours and all of that went into getting that in place. And you can see some of the steps of what we built there, but one of the biggest parts of it was laying down all these plastic pipes, which is what keeps the ice frozen. The cold solution runs under the ice in those pipes. And if I remember right, there's about 23 miles of plastic tubing. And with volunteers, we drilled, tapped, put in the hose barb fittings, cut, stretched, laid all of that pipe to make that happen. So it was quite an effort. It's now been there for 6 years, and let's see, about 3 years ago now. So originally, the first 4 years that it was there, it was run by a nonprofit that was mostly a group of volunteers that was kind of handling the operation, and it really just outgrew the ability of volunteers to take care of what was happening there. So we set up another nonprofit organization to take over the operation and run it as an actual business with paid employees, managers, that kind of stuff, to really vet it out as a potential viable business, essentially. So I'm going to show you just a couple of videos, and I apologize to show videos, but I think it's really hard to understand what really goes on there without seeing the pictures and the videos to see what goes on. So I'm going to show you this. this one just kind of highlights all the different activities that we offer. And this runs from essentially Black Friday until the end of February. So about 3 months a year is our season. So it's going to start off. This is just public skating sessions. It's a couple of different days, and I thought I better look up before I claim that these were average days. I thought I better look up and see what is an average day for us. So average weekly attendance for public recreational skating is a little over 1,200 people a week. And I looked up the week that some of these videos were taken, and it was about right about that average. So,
What are your hours of operation?
I'll tell you that after the video. So these are our Learn to Skate classes. So we start from like 4 and 5 year olds, and they just kind of work their way up. But we don't have time for anyone to get very good because we only have a season to offer 1 6-week session. So, and these are from kind of their little performances they did on their last day of their Learn to Skate class. So then we've got the youth hockey. So it starts, I think our youngest players are 4 years old, and youth hockey goes up to 14-year-olds. So we'll see all the different age groups here. These are the 8 and unders, so 6, 7, and 8-year-olds mostly. And probably half of these kids are skating for the first time here, so it's kind of cool how quick they pick that up. Then going on to the 10-year-olds. So the 10-year-olds and the 8-year-olds will typically play on like divided ice, so you can get more kids on the ice at the same time. And then these are either the 12 or the 14s. Actually, probably combined those two groups. Then this is our high school team. So I think since the first year we've had a JV and a varsity high school hockey team. And it's kind of funny, their season is half over before we even have ice. Their season starts in October. We don't even get ice till almost December, so. And then the adult hockey leagues. SUU has a club team that also plays in our adult leagues. But they'd love to be able to have a facility that they could actually schedule other college teams to come down and play with them, so. So yeah, so that was kind of all of the different programs. It's pretty cool that for such a small kind of pieced together thing, how full service it really is. And I wanted to show you one more, and again, I apologize to make you watch a video, but I think this is pretty eye-opening. Like I said, I look back at the weeks that these were taken. This is a very average weekend for us. I think it's the second weekend in December of last year. But this is a time lapse, essentially starting from our first session in the afternoon on Friday. It'll go all the way through Saturday night. So just to get an idea of the usage of the current facility throughout a span of time. So this is still Friday evening. You can see the clock running up there to give you the time of the evening. The only thing unusual about this weekend is we had high school games during this weekend too, so they'll take up some of the later Friday time and then the earliest Saturday morning time. So you can see the high school games starting now. So when we have the high school teams come, usually 4 teams will come, 2 JV and 2 varsity, and they'll play 2 games on Friday and 2 games on Saturday morning. And we have to do it that way because the ice isn't suitable for a good hockey game after about 9 or 10 o'clock in the morning. It gets too soft and mushy with the sun. You'll kind of see that as we get later into Saturday. So I guess one thing to mention is you kind of watch that. Every time the Zamboni comes out and goes around, that's a whole new session, so a whole new group of people that are getting on the ice.
So the hockey leagues go Saturday morning then till what time?
Yeah, so you'll see this, the high school game will wrap up here right at 10:30 or, no, this is now the youth hockey that's started. So this will be the older youth hockey. Now we've got the next group of youth hockey. You'll see the Zamboni come out and go around again.
So you wouldn't have much demand for public skate those early hours, right?
No.
When does the demand for that really take off?
The afternoons around, well, you'll see on here, actually. But one thing, so you'll see we've rolled out this insulation along the edge now. This time of day it starts to melt. See that kind of silver stuff on that sunny side? This time of December when the sun is pretty low, it's not as bad as later in January and February. We have to cover about half the rink to keep it from melting. But yeah, so the public sessions have started. I would say normally our afternoons, so that 2 to 4 o'clock is pretty busy. And then the evenings, 6 to 9 is another pretty busy public skating time. But yeah, you'll see. I mean, it really never slows down, though. I mean, stays pretty busy, and the Zamboni comes out. After every session, we change the color of wristband to make sure that people aren't just staying all day and other people don't have the chance to come in and get on. So it's a whole new group of people every time the Zamboni comes out and goes around. So, I mean, you can see how crowded that gets out there. If there's one complaint we get more commonly than anything, it's just that it's too crowded, or that people come and there's no skates to rent because they're all sold out. It's not uncommon. So
They don't skate in a circle then, like at the roller rink. It's just.
they kind of do, but they're kind of all over the place. And then our schedule is always to finish up the week with just a pickup hockey game that would start at 9 o'clock and finish off the week. So yeah, anyway, I just thought it's important because we can talk and put out numbers, but you don't really realize how many people that is until you see it up there. They're using this facility. So I'll go through some of these things. So like I said, I've been most closely involved the last 2 years as we've kind of taken it on to make it more of an actual business. So yeah, most of our numbers have gone up. Public skating is the one that went down slightly from 17 to 18, or from 2 years ago to this last year. So I think that has mostly to do with weather. You guys know how much snow and cold we got from about Christmas on through the end of February. There was probably 8 to 12 days that we were closed, totally closed due to weather, and this last season and several others just that we kept it open, but it was tough. But they held pretty steady even with the weather difference from the 2 years. So everything else we saw increases. We saw more kids in our Learn to Skate classes, a pretty big increase in our youth hockey leagues from 57 to 79. High school 2 years ago was not allowed to have any home games. We talked them into allowing some home games, so there was 13 home games for the high school team this last year. The SU club went from 19 members to 29 members. They've been the voted number one club on campus 2 years in a row now, the SU Hockey Club.
How many other high schools does Cedar Canyon do compete with?
All over the state. I don't know how many's in their league, but probably 15 or 20. Yeah. So yeah, adult hockey went up from 107 to 123. We actually sold out the adult league, so it could have been more, but they registered too late, so we didn't have time to arrange for more teams. And this is kind of, I guess, what we're dealing with, being an outdoor rink and not really protected from anything. So some of the challenges that we experience here in this location has a lot to do with weather. You can see some of the pictures there. The one on the top left was a weekend we had teams come for every age group of our youth hockey. So 4 different teams came down from Las Vegas, and it snowed like crazy. Ended up snowing us out, and we didn't get to finish the games that were planned. But you can see if you're at the rink and it's snowing, your purse, your shoes, your whatever you brought with you is also getting snowed on and soaked. And so it's just not a very pleasant place to be if any weather's going on. On the flip side of that, if it's a nice sunny day, you can see that the ice melts in the sun. So even with the refrigeration, just the radiation from the sun, it can't keep up with it to keep the ice frozen on that side. So we have to lay this reflective insulation out over the ice to keep it from just melting away during the day. So to get kind of to the point of the schedule, the ice rink is really, you can only count on it being useful from about 5 in the evening to closing at 10:30, 11 o'clock in the evening. And then Saturday mornings, when we have more demand in the morning, we can really only count on it being useful until about 11 o'clock, at which point we have to really cover it up and try and just preserve it for the rest of the day. Other than December it holds pretty well because the sun is really low in the sky. But so those are some of the challenges with the weather. Some of the other challenges just have to do with the facilities. The place where the ice rink is at was not planned to be an ice rink, and so there's really not any of the stuff that you need to really be a full-service rink. There's no restrooms. We have to use the restrooms inside the aquatic center, which means if you want to use the restroom, you have to take off your skates, put your shoes back on, and walk about 300 yards around the building in through the front doors to use the restrooms, which it's good. At least there's something there, but it's not very convenient. There's no locker rooms, so it's really difficult to get teams from out of town to come and play because there's nowhere for them to dress or get ready to play. And if you've seen hockey bags, it's not like a gym. It's not like basketball where you carry your shoes in, change your shoes, and go play. You're carrying a bag twice as big as you are and, suiting up. So there's no sheltered public area in any way. You can see in that bottom picture, this was the weekend that we had all those people from Vegas. They're just cramming into the hallway of the aquatic center, trying to stay dry, but really nowhere to accommodate people. And then the skating surface is also not regulation size, so we can't really hold any regulation events on that. And then on top of that, the refrigeration equipment we have and the setup, you saw how it was put together with volunteers. That was really put together to be temporary. It was never meant to stay in this location forever. And it's definitely showing signs of that now that we fix a lot of leaks. The equipment's old. Everything needs to be upgraded, I guess, if it's going to continue on. So just an idea of the actual usage of the current rink, and keep in mind all of those challenges. So this is not, I wouldn't say totally indicative of the potential. I think the potential could be a lot better with a nicer facility. But we serve, with all the programs and then just the recreational side of things, over 1,600 people a week. We average through there, or over 21,000 people throughout a 3-month operational period in the winter, which is pretty darn good, I would say, for what we have to offer. Yeah. So really what we need to continue on with what we're doing and serve even the current need, we need somewhere for people visiting the facility, using the facility. We need somewhere comfortable for them. that they're not getting snowed on and rained on and wind blown on them. Somewhere climate controlled that they can hang out and be comfortable. The ice itself needs to be protected from the elements, as you saw. The rain, the snow, the sun, whatever weather is going on is probably not good for the rink unless it's cold and overcast. It's about the only good weather, which isn't very common here. We need a regulation size rink so that we can hold all the regulation events that we want to hold, hockey tournaments and SUU hockey games and regulation high school hockey games, all of those things. We need locker rooms so that we can accommodate the teams that are coming here to use it on the athletic side. We need restrooms for everyone there, and especially restrooms that you could access in your skates and easily. We need reliable equipment that can run without an extreme amount of upkeep. And a really big one is just we need an operation that can go year-round. It's pretty difficult to keep well-trained and keep your good employees on when you can only employ them for 3 months a year and then hope they're unemployed again in 9 months to get them back. So those are some of the big needs. And it's not something new. It's not like the light bulb just went off and we finally realized we needed this, but it's something that's kind of grown up to this. So last late summer, fall, we started working with this company, Competitive Edge Rink Consulting, to look at what we're currently doing and see if a year-round facility in Cedar is something that really would be feasible, see if it's likely to succeed. So Kristen Egan, who's been around skating her entire life, grew up in the family business of owning ice rinks, is a professional skater herself, and also has managed actually a really wide range of ice rink events, from seasonal ice rinks kind of like we do, but that would be hired by cities or counties to come and set up and operate them. She's been very involved in that kind of ice rink business, as well as she managed the largest ice rink facility in the entire southern hemisphere in Melbourne, Australia. So very experienced consultant, came to Cedar City for 3 days, met with people from all different walks of life, and put together this feasibility study for us. And after kind of seeing what we'd accomplished with our current rink, seeing just the grassroots growth of the rink itself and the potential that's here, she felt inclined, with no solicitation, but just at the completion of her study, she was so convinced that it's likely to succeed in something that Cedar City would support, that she wrote us a personal letter of support, even besides the feasibility study that she put together for us. So I guess it's just a good feather in our cap to make us, to help us feel like we're not out there in left field, we're not up in the night, that this really is something worthwhile. So this is the plan that we've put together, and it's been an evolving plan. It's something that we've worked through with the city. I think it's come to a really good point. I really like the plan we've put together. So this is the property where the aquatic center is. Does that look familiar to you guys? So does this have a pointer on it too? Oh yeah.
It doesn't work
show
very
up
well on the TV though, yeah.
But it's on the left-hand side there. You can see it's on the west side of that property. There's a vacant lot there right now, so that's where we've designed in the new rink.
Right across from the Cedar Middle School.
Yeah. So that's the site plan. A little more close-up of the floor plans and stuff, but this will essentially cover all of that list of things that I talked about, of needs that we have. It'll have, maybe I'll just walk over here and point them out. So it'll have a regulation size sheet of ice, which is big, covered with a roof completely, so that'll shelter it from all the snow, rain, sun, all of that kind of stuff. It'll have a lobby that's completely enclosed, climate controlled, access out to the rink, but a good comfortable place for for customers to hang out. Decently spacious, but not overkill. Restrooms right off the lobby that will be, the flooring will continue all through here with rubber flooring so you can get into those restrooms in your skates, all that kind of stuff. A small meeting or party room, 4 locker rooms, plus a smaller changing room. And that's really standard for ice rinks. You might wonder why there's 4 locker rooms, but it really is quite a deal to get suited up for hockey. So essentially, if you're going to run any back-to-back games, you have to have a place for teams to be changing while teams are playing. Then when they come off the ice, so you're kind of an ever-rotating teams through the locker rooms there. And then it'll have just a small mezzanine up there above the locker rooms where we'll have the seating. So seating for over 500 people up there. If we outgrow that 500-person spectator seating, there is room we could put some more down on this other side too. So yeah, that's kind of the layout there. So this is just some artistic renderings of what this should look like if it was completed. So this is looking from the northwest, so looking at the entrance of the facility there. You'll notice that the north and part of the east side are not fully enclosed, and that's just something we've chosen just kind of based on the usage and what we've researched from other rinks. Summertime is just a very slow time for ice rinks, pretty much across the board, even though some people say it might be nice to go get cool in the summer, go to the ice rink and cool down. People just don't do it. So the plan for this would be to have it be an ice rink for about 6 months a year, so about October through March, which is the ice sports season, kind of the time that people are really interested in that, and then do much more of a multi-purpose facility for the rest of the 6 months a year. So you can just see, it's kind of cool how they photoshopped the actual background of Cedar City into that picture, looking out from the rink, that you can see the mountains to the east and kind of the cool atmosphere that would be there, still keeping those sides open.
What are the suggested summer activities you'd plan?
I'll show you in just one sec. Yeah.
Every question I ask, you've already got it covered.
I know.
Okay.
Well, I've only given this presentation how many times, Paul?
I got it memorized.
Yeah. So this is a picture about as you walk through the entrance there, so you can see into the lobby. One of the biggest things I think with a lobby for this kind of facility is that from the second you walk through the door, you can see everything that's available to you. So you can see right to the rink, to whatever action's going on there. You can basically see everything that the facility has to offer from the front door. So I think that's a good thing from the lobby perspective. So here's kind of our planned programming through the year. So winter will be pretty much what you guys saw in those videos and what I went through before. So a good amount of public skating, keeping the most heavily used public skating times available all the time. Skate school is one of the things that would really benefit from having a longer season and a year-round operation. We could plan and do those skate school classes and probably at least triple the amount of skate school sessions that we could offer, if not maybe 4 times it, in our winter season, and that doesn't count, roller skating lessons that we could do in the summer. So hockey, of course, figure skating is something that really just can't develop in the rink that we're doing now, just because there's not enough time to get good at it. So that's something that we think would really develop with a new facility. And then curling is another one of those things that just can't develop where we are. We can't maintain the ice well enough. So we'll offer curling at some point if we can get the support behind it. So let's see. And from several facilities we've talked to on the point of curling, most people think it looks really boring, but most facilities that have implemented it actually becomes super popular.
It's kind of intense, like more than you would think.
Yeah. So to me, I think curling on, no one would do that, but places that do it say it's actually very popular. So, so this is the summertime stuff. So one of the main things of summertime would be still skating, but in roller skates, which is just an easy transition. Everything's already set up for skating. So we can do most of the same skating programs on roller skates that we'd do in ice skates in the winter. And I think roller skating will be more popular as a summer activity than ice skating indoors, because people want to have that outdoor atmosphere in the summer, right? And we still have that with our open air concept, which is kind of why we picked that concept.
Alan, do you paint the lines on the concrete? Do those get worn off during the summer? You have to repaint them before winter, or how does that work?
No, it'll be just a blank concrete, just gray concrete slab. So for the summer season, we'll put in like a sport court, snap together sport court, that will have the lines in it.
Oh.
And in the winter season, you paint everything into the ice. So, yeah. All the roller skating activities we can do. We can do all kinds of multi-use things too. So we've had people talk to us about pickleball, or even volleyball leagues. You can see this picture in the lower right side there. That's a very similar facility that's in Bend, Oregon, and that's just a picture I took when I was there visiting. It was in the evening, and they had a women's volleyball league going with 3 volleyball courts set up in there. So kind of endless things that you could do in there. You could set up, it's big enough you could put tennis courts, or all kinds of stuff. So it's something we'd probably just work with a lot of, the local groups that do these kinds of things to see if they're interested. Arena soccer is another one that several people have kind of been interested in, which is a sport. It's not just soccer inside. Arena soccer is an actual sport that they play inside of dasher boards. So kind of cool. One of the ones we think that'll be just really beneficial to the youth of the entire area is, and it's an idea that we got from this facility in Bend, Oregon. That's a really similar concept, is to do just a summer day camp that would run essentially the entire day, that parents are at work and kids are out of school, vegging out on their phone or whatever, watching Cartoon Network. So instead of doing that, kids could come here and we could offer just all kinds of stuff. They wouldn't have to roller skate all day, but all of those multi-use things we talked about, we could offer. We can do little art activities and different things. So the rink facility could serve as kind of a home base, but not every activity has to be there either. If you think about what there is to offer on that property, there's the lake at the hill where we could do fishing and kayaking and paddleboarding groups that could go up there. Potentially we could work with the aquatic center staff to even offer, have the aquatic center offer swimming lessons throughout the course of the day camp, that the parents could, register their kids for those swimming lessons. They could go over there and come back. There's large grass fields, ball fields, all kinds of things that we could just kind of incorporate into the daily or weekly program of a day camp. So we think that would be a great thing. This facility in Bend says they have 200 to 300 kids participate in their day camp daily. So pretty cool program that we could offer there. And I guess all of these programs would just be kind of ever evolving to serve the need that are there, but could be pretty diverse in the summer especially. So this is just kind of a basic projection of what the annual usage would be of this proposed new facility. It doesn't take every possibility into account, but just kind of the big ones. So when you add it all up, we would say around 70,000 people a year would use this for just regularly scheduled programming. That wouldn't include hockey tournaments that would come in. That wouldn't include your high school hockey games or your whatever else would be going on there, SUU hockey games, that kind of stuff. So just kind of a basic number. And these numbers are based a lot on our current business without really any increases in a lot of this, in a lot of the stuff. I mean, with the programs, yes, but the public skating, it's actually a fair decrease in overall usage throughout the year. So, okay. Sorry to keep you guys here all day. It's been a lot to get up to speed on. So, let's see. So we put together this plan, right? Mark Wilson did kind of our conceptual plan, the floor plan, the site plan there. So then we hired it out to get a good estimate of the cost of this facility. So the estimated cost here is not just an architect opens the book, looks at the square footage, and gives you a number. There's been a fair amount of collaboration, I guess, to get to this number with the city engineer, some other local contractors that have done work in the area, that kind of stuff, to get the best estimate we can get without actually having engineered plans and bids and quotes and that kind of stuff. So the estimated cost is about $5.7 million for the completed project with the additional parking lots and things that would surround it. Let's see. Yeah, so we've got a total cost of about $5.7 million. I might come back to this. So that's obviously a lot to fund from any which way you look at it. So we have approached Cedar City, and we've kind of gone round and round with them several times. At this point, we've kind of honed it in that we would like Cedar City to pay for half of the cost of the facility, which is $2.85 million. And we would like to spearhead the effort to raise the additional $2.85 million. So you can see on the left, I've just kind of listed what we've kind of got cooking right now as far as private support for this. We think that when it's all said and done, we can probably get around $750,000 in in-kind donations from many different contractors and suppliers in the area, and I've just listed most of the ones that have offered to do that to this point. They're on the left, and potentially that could be more as we get all the way into it, but that's kind of the number that we think we can get to at this point, which leaves about $2.1 million currently unfunded. But if things work out, we're fairly confident that we can make up that $2.1 million. So the operating entity currently is a 501c3 nonprofit, so we can go out and seek large donations from some Utah foundations and stuff who have given to similar things before. But I think another key to really fully funding this is to potentially get the county to come in with some of it, where Cedar City will obviously be benefiting a lot because it's located there in Cedar City, but an ice rink in general, and especially this rink, is really a regional asset. It's not so much of a local asset. This would be the only skating facility from Las Vegas to Provo, and we're smack dab right in the middle. So strategically, we're in an excellent location to be able to take advantage of skating programs and communities that are located in Vegas and Salt Lake that rarely get together because of the distance. It's easy for them to meet in the middle here, that kind of stuff. So, yeah. So, yeah, if we could get some decent input from the county, and that's something I think we'd want to just talk more through the coming weeks. But it gives us a great springboard to be able to go to these other foundations and say, look, we have, 3/4 or 2/3 of this already fully funded. We just need this little bit more. It goes a lot easier that way. So, so essentially what we'd like to do, if we can get this fully funded, which is the first couple bullet points there, We would like to donate this facility back to the city, and that's mostly for just security of the valuable property, that we would like that not to be owned by the same nonprofit that's operating it. It's better to have those separate. And so we would like to donate it back to the city, and enter into a long-term lease agreement where the city just leases it back to us for $1 a year or some very minimal fee. And then from there, we would assume all responsibility for the operation and maintenance costs, for keeping this facility operating in the black. Yeah, we would take care of that. So we would maintain the facility out to the curb that would surround it, and the city would maintain the parking lots, which are mostly already existing. And that's good there. So just a couple of last thoughts. So our projections for the ice rink. So just in actual sales, the ice rink should generate around $700,000 a year in sales itself. Should pay out about $380,000 in wages and $250,000 roughly in other expenses. So it will be a significant business within Cedar City. And then just outside economic impact. This is not something that was put together by a research firm or anything. This is something that was put together by myself and Mary Pearson over at SUU, but just kind of making some assumptions with a few figures that I got from Maria Twitchell as far as the value of a visitor to Cedar City, and that kind of stuff. So we figured that the outside economic impact to the area could be around $1 million a year. So not astronomical numbers by any means, but just something to keep in mind, I guess. I don't think the economic impact is necessarily the reason to go forward with this. I think the impact that it has just on the community and the social impact is far greater, in my opinion. Skating is something, and the activities that we plan to offer is something that really cuts across every demographic, age, you name it. There's something there for those people. We have skaters from 4 years old to 75 plus, so.
I've still got my skates in the closet.
There you go.
It's been a while since
Haven't
I
seen
skated
you out
on the
there
pond.
in the hockey league, though.
Oh, I got to get a hockey stick.
Yeah. But, yeah, so, it really cuts across every demographic, from the athlete to just the casual visit the facility once or twice a year just for fun. It's got something for everyone. For me personally, I just feel like kids need something to do that's not facing their phone or Instagram or whatever everyone does. But they need a reason not to be in their phone, and this is something. We just see tons of kids, as you saw from those videos and pictures, that you go there, you step inside that glass, and you can't even really hear anything outside. It's like a whole nother world, and it's just fun. It's interactive. I think it's exactly what kids need, and especially that middle school to high school age, that there's not a lot for them in this area. There's a lot of kids activities and things focused towards, the younger age kids, but not a lot for the middle school, high school age kids. And then just a growing community, a growing county, cities like ours, they just need more variety in what they have to offer. Kids that are playing sports now, if you're not on every travel team and every, dedicating your life to it, it's almost hard to make it up into some of the sports that are mainstream. So it's really fun to see sports like what the ice rink could have to offer, or even lacrosse and some of those that are kind of starting to come along to just add diversity to what kids can get involved in and participate in. So I really think that the social side of it, that what it does for our community is really the reason to go forward. So that is about all I've got for you, unless you have questions or anything that you'd like to ask.
A tough question. How many years would Staley Rec be willing to contract, go out, into the future to continue this? operation and maintenance?
I would say indefinitely, I guess. So this is not a Staley West or even a Staley specific thing. We have a board that my dad and I are on, but we're the only Staleys on that board. The rest of them are other members of the community. And to have this be secure long term, it has to be that way, that if 5 years from now I'm out of the picture, someone else is there to carry on. So yeah, but I would say indefinitely. And just kind of going back to the feasibility study, our track record for the last 6 years, we've never received 1 cent in operational subsidy to keep the current operation running. We've had decent profits for a recreational facility every year that we've done it. So.
Okay, comments, commissioners, questions?
I know I have questions, but now I'm drawing a blank for a second.
That's all right.
So, okay, I'm back. Aside from the feasibility study and such, what kind of, I guess, how many avenues of financial analysis has there been to determine just the financial stability of the project? Has there been one set of eyes that looked at it and said this is where we are, or are there multiple sets of eyes that have looked at it and said that this is a good thing?
Okay, so we're talking not capital cost, we're talking operational.
Right. We're talking going into the future.
Yeah, so obviously the feasibility study was one of the big ones. Of course, myself, I've looked at it pretty closely because I'm sticking my neck out there pretty good. Our entire board has looked at it. We've had others in the community look at it. I reviewed it with Mary Pearson just a couple of weeks ago. We've got comparisons. The best comparison we could come up with was that Bend, Oregon facility that I mentioned a few times here. That's also got, it's not privately run, it's run by government, but unlike most government facilities, it does not run in the red. So yeah, we thought that was a good one to kind of pattern our planning off of, especially some of that unknown stuff, the summertime stuff. Took a lot of ideas from there. So nothing's ever guaranteed. I mean,
sure,
but we've got 6 strong years of success up to this point. So we know that there's programming that is profitable. I'll say the goal is not to make a profit, but to not lose money, right?
Sure.
So we know that there are those things that are profitable. There's other, the summertime we don't have experience with, but we're going off our best projections and hopes. And I would be almost absolutely confident that we can make it run in the black. And if there's something, if that means that there's some things that just aren't quite cutting it and we have to cut those out, if we have to, that's the worst case scenario for me. That, we pare it back to just the most successful things or something, but yeah.
But if it does go in the red, you're not going to look to the city or the county, correct?
No. I mean, that's something that Staley West as a business supports. So that's one reason that we're holding back a little bit, to be honest, on the capital side of it, and really throwing our name in there big on the capital side, is that we really don't want to tie our hands too much to be able to give us that little bucket to draw on, I guess, if we needed to operationally. And like I say, I mean, the worst case scenario, if city, county do not want to give 1 red cent to this ever on operations, I think the worst case scenario is that possibly some programs might not quite cut it and they get pared back just a little bit. But everything that we're offering at this point, quite full service and all, pretty full hours is making it just fine. So
what are your projected rates?
So currently we've got a few different rates, but it's going to average about $4 to $5 on admission and $2 for skate rental. So somewhere between $5 and $7 is what someone's going to pay to come skate if they don't have their own skates. If they have their own skates, it's $3 to $5 to get in. All of our projections have been with the same fees as we're currently charging, but increasing the skate rental by $1. So it would be, instead of $5 to $7, $6 to $8 if you're renting skates. But a lot of people, I think, if it's a year-round facility, a lot of people are going to end up with their own skates too. So that's just kind of an incentive to get your own skates. It helps us on the operational side. We don't have to maintain skates so heavily and all that. So, which I think is right in par too with other things. The aquatic center charges $4.50 to get in, just to swim, which is 50 cents less than what we charge for a standard public skating session for admission. So,
and one point on that, we subsidize every time as somebody comes to the aquatic center, we subsidize that anywhere from $3.50 to $4 a piece. City's subsidizing that to make it work financially.
So one of the things that
and I have some comments, Alma, before we.
Okay, you bet.
that was mentioned was some favorable financing from Zions Bank.
Mm-hmm.
What would the terms of that financing be?
So,
Or is that?
well, I don't know if that's part of the plan anymore. The plan with Zions Bank was we were asking the city to provide some annual subsidy to go towards utilities in order to let them cut back on what their initial capital investment would have been. And then we were going to use that cash flow essentially to service the debt from Zions Bank, and Zions Bank was going to give us a really big interest rate concession as their input. So we could have borrowed $1.5 million at almost no interest with Zions Bank. So that was what it was, but now the city has asked us to take that annual subsidy off the table, put it into a lump sum ask, and that's why we're at that $2.85 million lump sum that we've asked of the city, which kind of takes our ability to service debt out of the business plan.
So I've got a couple comments. So how much did we contribute towards, as a county, towards the aquatic center? Was it $1 million?
I don't know.
Like
You remember, Maria?
1.25. Okay. So I wanted to just, and I brought this up in our city council meeting. I just, when we talk about recreation and the cost of it, just to compare this to the aquatic center, and I wanted to do this. I haven't had time, but I want to do it for the aquatics or for the Diamond Z Heritage Center, all those facilities, the ball fields. But if you just look at the aquatic center to date now, and I went through these numbers with Jason Norris, our finance director in Cedar City. Right now to date, building the swimming pool, O&M, all the expenses to date is $14,700,000. We have a 25-year bond. We have 16 years left on that bond, and we run in the deficit on that facility, I think around $380,000 to $400,000 a year. So if you multiply that out, that's another about $6.3 million. So all in all, by the time that bond is paid off for the aquatic center, it's $21 million that we've spent on the aquatic center, and then and that includes subsidizing it every person that uses that facility between $3.50 and $4 a piece. And I just wanted to point out with the difference between that and this idea is this is a one-time investment that we make. Like for instance, the other day we thought that the pool liner would last a lot longer than it did, but unfortunately it's starting to fail already after 8 years. And we're looking, even with the company covering some of the cost of the new pool liner, it's costing Cedar City about $135,000 to replace that. And then we're looking maybe at doing that every 10 years. And there's going to be boiler expenses and different things as that facility gets older and older. But with the ice rink concept, this is a one-time investment into that facility, and then the Staleys and their board They maintain that, cover all the O&M, labor expenses, and all those things. So that I think that's a good comparison of a one-time 2.8 million, 2.85 from the Cedar City, and then 2.85 from Staley's and their board, compared to the $21 million. It was interesting in the wintertime when I would be there. You look at the cost of the aquatic center. Oftentimes, at least in the wintertime, you'd go into the swimming pool and there'd be more lifeguards than swimmers, and you'd go out and there'd be 300 people using the ice rink. And so, I think when you compare use, it's a good thing. Dan, Jess, and I went through some numbers. We calculated roughly that about 18% of Iron County is unincorporated, and so if you look at the county possibly getting involved, which I talked to Maria about with the TRCC tax, if you take 18% times $5.7 million, that's about $1 million. And Maria, I know you can't bind your board, but she felt like they might be favorable to participating over maybe a 3-year period of an amount of money that would add up to considerable amount. Obviously not that much, but so if you looked at and then you've got the the incorporated, the Enoch, Parowan, Canaryville, Burrell, Bryan Head, those other entities. Whether they would participate or not, I don't know. You look at the return on investment, though, when you would want maybe an Enoch to participate the same as Cedar City. I don't know that that's totally fair, because Cedar City is going to receive the return on investment through sales tax revenue and all those other, the TRCC, TRT, and all those avenues of funding. And so, that's for the county to justify participating. I think it's easy to justify. We talk a lot about return on investment financially and these different things. I think over I don't know, Dallin, what do you think? I don't know. Would this go 30 years? Would it go 40, 50? I don't know. I mean, don't know how long that facility would last, how long it would run. But I think, at least for Cedar City, I think the return on investment for the amount they put into it, I think they would recoup that. And I also brought up in our meeting, when industries look to come to Iron County to set up shop, a lot of times we're competing with Kingman, Arizona, and a lot of these other communities to attract those new businesses to Cedar City. And I know when they come, they look at the cemetery, they look at recreational opportunities for kids, they look at a general quality of life, and I think this would be unique enough that it would add a lot to that equation. And the last thing I'll say is just that we talk a lot about return on investment financially, but these are kids, as I've talked to Dallin and been involved in this, and that's why I want to abstain from any vote, is I've been involved with this for the 6 years intensely, and there's a lot of kids that this appeals to that don't participate in other sports. Maybe, is that right, Dallin? Maybe there's a lot of kids, there are some crossover, but there's some kids that the other things don't appeal to them that this does, and so I think we need to look at the return on investment for our kids as well. So anyway.
Okay, thank you. Nicole, you had a comment or a question?
Well, I know you said that you had asked Cedar City for that path, but they agreed. That path in,
Not yet. We're hoping they will soon. So. Yeah. But again, I think the county's participation and kind of getting closer to that end goal, I think makes everyone more likely to want to get on board and make it happen. That's my thought. We'll see.
Are there other questions or comments from the public that's here? You're welcome to comment. Okay. Well, I think, as Commissioner Cousins says, he's talked to Maria. We have restaurant tax funds and TRT funds and that could go towards something like this. And whatever amount we committed, I'm sure it would be contingent on you coming for, Staley Rec coming forward with their half.
Yeah.
And obviously the city too, you know, if they decide to do that. But
Everyone's contribution is going to be contingent on the whole being funded,
yeah,
I guess is
exactly,
what it comes
exactly.
down to. So
ability to go forward. Yes, please. I don't.
And in theory, because we don't have numbers, or is it a number, or is it just you're gonna, I guess I don't know what exactly is on the table for today's decision. My understanding, we don't even know real numbers, there's not an RFP, there's not a number, so I don't know what you're voting on.
We don't have any of that, and it says possible donation. So I don't know. Personally, I'm not ready to vote on it today, but I really appreciate the discussion.
The thought had been there may be something coming from Maria's side, but there may be something coming from the general, you know, the general fund, and in which case, I didn't want to tie their hands. So
I guess just from my side, my only objective was really to introduce this. I know that I've talked to all of you at some point very briefly about this, but no, I don't think anyone's really been fully brought up to speed. So I just wanted to give you maybe a full view of what it is we've done, what we want to do, and at this point to give you something to mull over for a couple of days, and then maybe one-on-one we'd get together and talk about what's reasonable to ask, and how we get to that end goal. It was really my only objective. So I didn't want to vote on anything today. It's also going to be pretty contingent upon if the city's willing to go forward, which that's kind of coming up here too. So
Right. Now, I assume that whatever contribution we make would come out of the city's portion. Is that correct?
Well, it's all going towards one end goal. So as much as I would like to say that it could go there, I would rather say that it would go towards completing the rest of the funding, just because it still leaves us with well over $1 million that we've got to come up with, and that's not a small amount of money to garner out of this community and even, you know, a wider area. So like I said, I guess we just don't want to milk every bucket dry and then have our hands kind of tied when it's time to start operating this thing and say we've got to make it in the black from day one, and we've already milked every cow dry. I think long term the goal would be to just I would rather have it go towards the other half, I guess.
Well, I'm glad I asked that question because we've got representatives from the Cedar Council here, and I'm sure that's important for them to know that. And I should never assume, but I kind of made the assumption that it would come out of Cedar.
And
so.
I mean, I can see why it should go to the other half too, but just looking at it realistically, and I mean, I've had initial discussions with a lot of other potential supporters of this that could support it financially, and it's one of those things that's not super easy to raise. Even if we're left with $1.5 million, it's not super easy to get those commitments. So if that $1.5 million is, you know, 2.5, it's even that much harder. And it's kind of time sensitive too, because we can't stay where we're at forever. So I mean, it's one of those things. I guess there's really a great grassroots kind of ground floor effort to get this thing off the ground and get it going. But if these things drag out for a year or 2 and 3 years trying to pull everything together, a lot of people lose interest and you lose a lot of momentum. So
Commissioner Maria had a question.
Yeah.
Well, I just
or
want to
comment.
make sure the commission is aware, in terms of TRCC, we have a policy. It's in order to be eligible.
Maria, could you come up and speak into the mic? Sorry.
Under our policy for TRCC funding, the applicant must be a local, like a government agency, which means school, municipality, federal land agency, or state department. So I don't know that we can give towards a nonprofit entity under the TRCC funding.
Do you think that would change anywhere it's going to be built and then donated to the city, or does it have to be donated up front, you think?
I think that's something that we'll have to look through.
Or could it be donated directly to Cedar City if that's...
And that was what we were considering, you know, what we've done in the past. That's where the precedence is that we have given the money to the municipality. or to the state agency.
So that would have to be would you remind us of the timeline of the upcoming application process and funding process?
So our funding process begins pretty soon. So applications are due in November 1st. And then they are reviewed by the board, and then we ask the applicants to come to our meeting to make a short presentation and then make decisions that will be then advised to the commission for a final vote before the budget is finalized in December. So we do have Dallin on our agenda for our October 2nd meeting, but that is to just kind of give a report, inform the committee of what's happening with the ice rink project, but it is not it is not a part of the application process. So my recommendation has always been that the city apply for the money.
Well, sorry.
Okay, Terry. You bet.
I have a question on that then.
Would you state your name just for the public?
Terry Hartley, Cedar City, Utah. If the city applies then for those funds from the restaurant tax, how does that work then? Typically, the county gives Cedar City a grant every year from that restaurant tax. Would that count then as our money for the next 3 years, and we wouldn't get it towards other projects? So Cedar City would be paying for that anyway? I just wanted to clarify that.
No, we would continue with the things that.
Okay.
Well, Maria will explain it better.
So,
Okay, thank you.
so yes,
You.
because the city leisure services has over the past couple of years, they have applied for several different projects. The application process would be the same. They would be considered under the process. So, this would be its own application, and the funding would be determined just for that. But if there are other applications from the city, those would be just considered and would be funded as the funding is available if they meet our criteria.
Well, and the other thing that has to be considered too is if it's like we talked, if it's incremental in 3 years, then they obviously need the money up front to build the facility. So I don't know how that works. If the other money's obviously that first money would be okay, but then the next 2 years would have to be. I don't know if the city carries that until that comes in, or I don't know how that works. But
It's one of those kind of case by case situations. The SUMA project is kind of the one that we kind of go back to as the formula, and we committed to SUMA for over 4 years, for 4 years, with the same amount of funding. They basically carried it until it was, and we just. After a certain amount of time, it was basically paying them back. So that's why we've been trying to limit those kinds of ongoing funding aspects to less than 4 years. And so my thought with this particular project is that we would look at 2 or 3 years.
Okay. And there is the burden of coming up with the money up front, but we can usually always give more, though, if we do it over a period of years. Without question.
And that it's worked better for everyone. So by doing it that way.
Okay, any other questions for Maria?
I actually had one for Dallin. So with the aquatic center being
Thanks,
kind
Maria.
of Exhibit A, because I'm sure nobody came to the city and said, "Hey, we plan on losing $400,000 a year."
Yeah.
I think this model seems to be a little more insulative for the city, but if you get down the road and you've run in the red for a while, if things don't pan out the way you've projected, I can't imagine where you're talking about like a $1 per year lease and the city owns it. I can't imagine that Staley or the operators would necessarily be on the hook to continue with that lease. That's the first bit, and then I get the idea that you're trying to subsidize something good for the community. I think it's cool.
Yeah.
But how long, and this is I guess more of a hypothetical, but how long can Staley West subsidize that if it goes in the red long term?
Well, we
It's
wouldn't
the
be
magic
able to
8-ball question
we
in it,
wouldn't,
but
we wouldn't be able to subsidize it $400,000 a year forever. That's for sure.
right.
So, and yeah, I mean, no one has a crystal ball to see if Staley West will even be around 20 years from now. I assume we will. I hope we will. But I guess maybe my best response to that is we already know that there's something in a facility that is maybe kind of far below its means, that there's a business that can be run in the black in that for a decent part of the year. So I guess, again, the worst case scenario to me, I mean, there could always be World War III and we could all be off fighting Russia, you know, but without any major unforeseen thing, the worst case to me is that we had to pare out some of the stuff that we just weren't experienced with and operate only those profitable things that we already know are successful and are only going to be more successful with better accommodations. I think it would be crazy to postulate that it's going to be less popular with a much better facility, if that makes sense.
Right. Yeah.
So I think that's kind of the worst case scenario. And if the city and the county, if that worst case scenario played out and they just said this needs to serve the community more, they would have the option of subsidizing it a bit. The other thing is, as a nonprofit, we can go out and try and raise sponsorships and that kind of stuff, and that's where
I just worry because you're going to have more O&M costs. You're going to have potentially some financial, you know.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah, we'll have a little bit more O&M costs, but with kind of the way we're working with a lot of the local suppliers and things, some of that should be taken care of for a while. I mean, we're already running a refrigerated ice rink with all of the pumps and chillers and piping and employees that you need to do that, and at the same time we're having to roll out insulation and weight it down and deal with all the elements.
So do you pay for the power for that? I was curious on that too. Do you pay for the power for that?
Yeah.
And you're able to stay in the black that way.
On top of paying our own utilities, reimbursing the city for the utilities, we pay about $10,000 a month in lease too, between the equipment that we lease from Staley West and the lease to the city. So that's a $10,000 a month that could go back into other operational things. So
thank you. That's good information.
Yeah.
Nicole has another.
Yeah, the plan is that every penny of operational cost would be paid by Staley Rec or whichever entity is operating it. Yes, so that's yep. Yeah, and that's what's been done for the last 6 years. Just to be clear, too, the city has not subsidized the ice rink aside from some RAP tax for some facility improvements. But as far as operation goes, 100% of the cost has been covered by the operation, so with some left over each year too. So
you mentioned, and we'll get right to, you mentioned that the rink that you have now needs a lot of upgrades. Will that happen with the new building? I mean, within 6 or 8 years, is there gonna be a lot of maintenance that's gonna be needed?
So everything we have at the rink currently, so the big parts of it, the expensive stuff, the chillers and the pumps, we got at least fourth hand, and we don't know how far back the pedigree goes, but it came from Arizona to St. George to Grand Junction, Colorado to here. That's not a good environment for chillers that are prone to corrosion and different things, that they're being set up, they're being taken down, they're exposed to the air. So it's been very well abused. I will definitely say it's old. So everything we have is gone, and everything we're gonna get will be new.
Well, I guess that's a silly question. Everything needs maintenance at some point.
Yeah.
But anyway, with new equipment, it will stretch out there a lot.
But just to put it in perspective, I mean, a chiller is similar to a boiler. It's a 20, 30 year machine. It's a large investment, but it's a very long-lived machine. Of course, it's going to need maintenance and that kind of stuff. but it'll get it. Being in a year-round facility with people dedicated to that equipment, it's going to get it, where currently it just doesn't get it. We put it up when it's time to go. We run it hard for 3 months, and then it sits there for 9 months. So,
Okay. Terry has another comment or question.
We haven't really talked about property insurance. If the city owns the building, in the property and liability insurance.
okay, yeah, that's something we maybe haven't talked about with the council, but it's something we've talked about with the city staff. If it was to be donated, we'd probably get 2 estimates on the property insurance, one from us, one from the city. I think the city manager's already got an estimate. It's a pretty reasonably low number. So my guess would be that the city would pay the property insurance and we would pay for the property insurance as our lease. So it'd be like a $3,000 a year lease roughly to cover that property insurance, so that we're not adding adding expense to the city, I guess. So we're covering all our own way. So.
Okay. Well, we appreciate your presentation.
One last comment. As I've seen this firsthand for a lot of years, the reason I believe this will be successful is its grassroots. I mean, when it first started, you had a group of people that were passionate, and they worked their 9-to-5 jobs and then were there till midnight every night running this facility and donating time. And the passion's still there, and it's growing. And that's what makes me a believer in the whole concept. Is I just think they'll make it work. And
So I guess I would like to ask that maybe in the next couple of weeks coming up that we get together and maybe just discuss it a little more one-on-one, see what we think. I can give you the contact info of the consultant if you want to give her a call and get her take on the whole thing.
That would be good. Yeah, we appreciate that.
Yeah. So, and anything you need from me in the meantime, I'm happy to talk about it with you. So.
Okay. Thanks so much. Appreciate your presentation. Okay, number 4, personnel. Good morning, Adrian.
Good job. Morning, commissioners. The personnel-related items on the agenda, 4A and 4C are both just requests for approval of new hires. The first one being Braden Beaumont as an appraiser trainee with the start date of today, September 23rd, 2019. We had recently posted and advertised that position, went through the interview process, met with and interviewed multiple candidates. Braden was selected, but he is just finishing an accounting degree at SUU. So the request is that we get approval to start him as a part-time employee until graduation, which is anticipated to be in December, at which time we would build into the approval that the opportunity to transition him to full-time at that point. It is a position that was approved and budgeted as a full-time position, so there's no implications there. But just to communicate that up front in terms of what the plan is going forward.
Okay. I know Mike Worthen used him this summer for the trails and was very happy with his work ethic and how he performs.
I know Cindy, the county assessor, actually discussed with Mike and got a reference from him and some input that way, and it was he was very positive about Braden. So.
Okay.
So that would be the first one, and maybe just to lump the two new hires together again.
Yes,
4C, we also have a new justice court clerk starting today with your approval, Sydney Robbins, and that is a backfill of a position that was recently vacated by Hudson Brown.
Okay.
So we're just, again, backfilling that position, asking for the effective date of September 23rd, 2019.
Okay. I would entertain a motion.
I'd move for approval of new hire of Braden Beaumont as appraiser trainee effective September 23rd, 2019.
You mentioned the part-time on that in your motion.
Yes.
So
help me out, Adrian. I drew a blank.
With the with the initial approval being part-time until
yes.
an anticipated date of December 15th, 2019 is what we've kind of earmarked.
Okay.
To where he would transition to full-time status.
Right. So approval of new hire Braden Beaumont as appraiser trainee effective September 23rd, 2019 in a part-time status with a full-time status projected to kick in December 15th of 2019. Also part of my motion will be to approve the new hire of Sydney Robbins as a court clerk in the Justice Court effective September 23rd, 2019, and mention that is a backfill position.
Second.
Been moved and seconded that we approve the new hire of Braden Beaumont as a appraisee trainee effective today, part-time and then becoming full-time. And in the Justice Court, approval of new hire Sydney Robbins as court clerk effective today also. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries.
Okay, thank you. And then the other personnel 4B is we're here today to just give you an update on, or to provide an update on the grant-funded defense attorney coordinator contract position. We've gone through that process of advertising that contract. We've gone through the interview phase of filling that position. Commissioner Cousins participated in that. We also had Joanna Landau from the AOC participate in that interview process. Met with some very qualified, impressive individuals, a number of those being attorneys that we currently have under contract. After going through that, we got, again, a good response. Met with, I think, 5 different attorneys that expressed interest. And after that process, we made the decision to possibly offer that position and that contract to Mr. Shane Manueli, who's actually here today, here in the front row. So really this is the part in that process to possibly take the steps necessary to move that formal approval forward in terms of the contract, maybe do an introduction of Mr. Manueli. Maybe he can tell you a little bit about himself. And again, it's just a matter of getting that contract approved and signed at this point.
Let's do B1 first as a separate motion. And we actually, you weren't here earlier, but we actually had Shane come forward and already speak to us.
Great.
Because we had some extra time earlier. So
well, perfect.
Anyway, yeah. So we won't make you speak again unless you have some.
Off the hook, right? And Chad, did you need to take some time too, or?
So if there's, the only thing is if there's the contract I got this morning, reviewed it briefly, there's some issues, some things typographically and formatting. I would like some more time to go through it. It came through an outside party, and I believe there was you'll probably notice it to approve it today, so I'd like a little more time. And I think that was the plan. Is that right, John? To put this on for
Well, Mike had mentioned that, yeah.
So go ahead and approve it, and we can ratify it later. Okay.
Well, I don't want you to approve an agreement that we don't have it finalized. So why don't, I think it's one thing if you
or
want
contingent upon.
Why don't you, if you want to approve the grant position, but I guess the concern I have with that is, as I'm reading this, I'm trying to go through it right now. It's anticipating this as an independent contractor.
Correct.
We approve an independent, or do we, independent contractor position?
All of them are, aren't they?
No, I mean, you have county employees and you have independent contractors.
I mean, yeah, I'm just mean our defense people now are independent, aren't they?
Adrian, is this going to be a W-2 position or a 1099?
1099.
1099.
Contract for somebody. It's not a hire.
Right.
Right. It's not a hire. Right. So. Yeah,
I'm
so
sorry,
we actually
maybe I-
shouldn't have
That's
new
right.
hire on the agenda. It should be just.
Maybe I
approval.
misworded that. I'm not sure if I did. I apologize.
Shouldn't be
but-
new hire. It should be approval of contract. Yeah.
But I think
we
if you
can.
want to take some action on this today, you can talk about the idea that you were going to enter into some sort of agreement with the state where they were going to provide some funds for you to have an administrator of the public defender. They were going to be funding that position, was my understanding. It's fine if you want to proceed with that sort of a discussion.
That's actually already been addressed previously. We've gone through the commission
Yeah.
approval as part of opening that before we advertised it and intended to fill it.
We did do that indeed. Yeah.
So, and again, and I knew that.
So what you're saying number one's already been done?
Well, we haven't done the approval, but we did the discussion part of it, correct? Or did we do approval of the
I think
of the position?
We
We might have to look at the minutes.
It's my understanding that the position, and like I say, that we made a commitment to the grant, receiving the grant funding and opening for that specific purpose.
So
But I thought
the
this was
commission approved
referencing the
application
contract
for the grant
itself.
funding. Yeah.
We approved the application for the
So
grant funding.
now that we've got the contract, though, the attorney's office would like to review the contract.
That's the issue. I just want to be able to review it, make sure the commission is aware of everything, feels good about it before we can give our recommendation.
Okay.
So do we need to wait till the next meeting? Council? Okay. When was
Which is
Shane going to
October
start?
14th. I mean, based on what, and I think one reason we met a week ago on these interviews, and Joanna Landau has been really instrumental in this contract, bringing it forward, and she's been extremely busy. So I know they've been working on it, but kind of relying on her schedule and trying to fit it in between her availability too. So I mean, we had talked about. Because we're looking at utilizing this $90,000 grant and using it all up, even though it's a short year, it would be my preference, but maybe we can't, to start. I was hoping that we could start Shane, even though he can't relocate to Cedar City immediately, he can start working on the administrative side of things within, an organization and deciding who takes what load in the public defense arena. And maybe try to get him started sooner than later, but maybe that's not possible. Is it, Mike, or is it Chad? I mean, I guess without a contract, that might be hard.
What?
Contract, just this morning, there was some typographical errors and some formatting was kind of different. And then there were some questions that I had about how things were going for the commission, those same issues. So those are some things that, having got it this morning, I can recommend that we
Okay, we'll have to remand this to the next meeting.
And then just to stick with the core principles, it's just the district attorney or county attorney would be approving it as to form and not giving input as to the contract itself.
No, we're not,
Well, I don't know that I should agree with that. I mean, I think the county can say, we're not comfortable with this term and we're not comfortable with that term.
Yeah, we've got to have
Well,
that.
I have a question. Are we receiving the grant monies and then paying them out? Is that?
Do you know if they come directly from the state? To
Yes,
the
they come to-
individual? But through the county?
To the county, and then we pay them out.
Through the
Okay.
county, so.
Okay.
Yeah.
I was going to say.
we're not saying that we don't think that this is a good contract to enter.
No,
into.
yeah.
Specific terms we might not be comfortable with.
Yeah, that's important.
Yeah, and so just, I've been working with Joanna, and she indicated her hope was to get a contract to me to review. She was unable to do that, so I drafted one and gave it to her. And then she made some changes, and that might be some of the formatting errors and back and forth. So she made some changes, I incorporated those changes, created some new language, sent it to her, and then this morning was the first chance that she got to look at it, and I think sent it over to the county attorney's office.
Okay. Well, I'm going to rule that we move this to the next meeting because of the information we received from council. So we can stay within the law.
Right. Always want to do that.
So, Commissioner, I did have one thought. It's coming up on the lunch hour. Would there be sufficient time for the attorney's office to review it so that you could take action today, or is that even in the realm of?
we can.
Could
I don't want to throw you under the bus. I just kind of had that thought that
and that's a good point. Where Shane's here, he drove up this morning or this weekend from Nevada. Could he sit down with you guys and kind of hash this out and then come back? And
Okay.
If there's any possible way, it'd be nice to get it done
Right.
today.
And everybody's, like I say, I know but it's totally understandable that we didn't intend for it to be on short notice. It's just working everybody's schedules and kind of going through the proper steps. And so, yeah, whatever. And I'm sure, but everybody's been very accommodating. So whatever, I think whatever the commission feels best, then let's go that direction.
Okay, we'll take a lunch recess until 1:15. We have another appointment at 1:30, but I'm sure if they're ready, it will only take us just 2 minutes to go
Are we
forward.
meeting here? Or are we at Yankee Meadow?
We're meeting here, yeah.
Okay, so we got
Yeah,
time.
So we've got time. So we'll reconvene at 1:15. So that'll give us time to do what we need to do here. If you can do it by then, and then we'll move forward.
Thanks.
Then we can
I
meet
didn't
our
want to throw them
appointment.
under the bus, but I did have that thought.
Oh, that's a good thought, John. I appreciate it. Hopefully they can do that in that amount of time. Okay, and thank you very much,
Thank you.
Adrian. Any prairie dog matters? Any county
Happily no.
board matters? Okay.
I would just like to invite you all, I know you have USAC in
Wednesday, Thursday.
Thursday, but we have Board of Equalization on Thursday and Friday, if either of you, or any of the three of you would like to join and observe. Or at least not in the last 10 years, have been into our Board of Equalization, and you are welcome to come. We have meetings all day Thursday and Friday.
That kind of
Thursday and Friday. I'm not going to these meetings. I've got to stay here, so I would like to participate with what I can. When do they're all day Thursday?
8 to 5, Thursday and Friday.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Adrian.
We're out here in this room?
Yeah, we're downstairs in the commission the old commission.
Okay, we are recessed till 1:15. Thank you all.
How are you?
Loving it. John, are we off?
It's still rolling. You're rolling.
Okay, we're already reconvened from our recess. The attorneys and Shane have decided that they need a little more time than just an hour and 15 minutes to review the contract. So we will have a special meeting later in the week. And I think that's all our business. The chair declares this meeting adjourned.
Okay. You guys want to go to
I'm
Are you going to?
I'm gonna go home and change, and then I'll probably get lunch there. So.